Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out with us this evening. At this time, on April 13, 2023, I will call this City Commission meeting to order at 6:32 p.m. And we will stand and we will have our invocation by Pastor Steve Langford from First United Methodist Church here in High Springs. Welcome, Mr. Langford.
Thank you. Please join me as you feel comfortable. Father God, we do come to you so thankful for your love. And Father, tonight we thank you for the men and women that are civic leaders here and for those who work for the city and take care of us. We thank you for what they do for us, and we pray that you would be with them and that you would keep them safe. We thank you for our police department and our fire departments. We especially ask that you would protect them from harm's way. Father, we also ask that you would share your love with each of us in this room so we can make our community a better place. Help us to not so much worry about our own experience, but be willing to listen to someone else's experience and value them for what they have experienced. Bless us all now. Keep us close to you, for we ask all this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Shall we do our Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You ready? Roll call, please.
Mayor James?
Here.
Vice Mayor Ambrose?
Here.
Commissioner Brennan?
Here.
Commissioner White?
Here.
Commissioner Williams?
Here.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'm going to ask for an approval of the agenda, please.
Bruce, the ordinance that's up here, the draft, did you want that on the agenda or just for our review for the
No.
next meeting?
No.
Okay. I make a motion we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and second that the agenda be approved as printed. All those in favor respond with aye, please.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Agenda approved. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for our consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and second that the consent agenda be approved as printed. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Consent agenda approved. Motion carries 5-1. At this time, we will look at item E, which is special presentations. And the first thing that we have is a proclamation declaring April 2023 as National Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Month.
Madam Mayor, this is a proclamation declaring Child Abuse Awareness Month. Whereas child abuse and neglect are a serious problem affecting every segment of our community and finding solutions requiring input and action from everyone in our community, and whereas our children are our most valuable resources and will shape the future of High Springs, and whereas child abuse can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that can have lifelong consequences for victims of abuse, and whereas protective factors are conditions that reduce or eliminate risk and promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of children, whereas effective child abuse prevention activities succeed because of the meaningful connections and partnerships created between child welfare, education, health, community, and faith-based organizations, businesses, and law enforcement agencies, and whereas communities must make every effort to promote programs and activities that benefit children and their families, and whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, nurturing environment, Whereas prevention remains the best defense for our children and families, now therefore Gloria James, Mayor of the City of High Springs, does hereby proclaim April 2023 as National Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Month in High Springs and urges all citizens to recognize this month by dedicating themselves to the task of improving the quality of life for all children and families.
Thank you. And to all of you, I would like for you to thank the women from the High Springs Women Club for reminding us that this was an appropriate thing to do because this was National Child Abuse Month. So we have made a presentation to them, and it was my pleasure to do so, and thank you for reminding us. All right, item number 2 is presentation by Waste Pro Solid Waste Company.
Good evening, Commission. We have Nate and Dana to discuss how we're moving forward with the transition from GFL to Waste Pro. They're going to run through some of the steps they've gone through at this point, where we're currently at, with the transition being about 3 weeks away, with the information that's going to be going out next week, and just kind of give you a general overview of where we're at and how things are going. So Dana, can you come on up?
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Commissioners, City Manager, City Attorney, City staff in the room, citizens. My name is Dana Miller, and I'm representing Waste Pro and the Director of Government Affairs. Yes, I have props. I'll talk about these when he gets the other one in. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, sir. And also with me is Nate Frischkorn. He's our division manager for our Alachua division right next door. I'm not going to lie, I'm excited to be standing before you. We have always wanted to come back to High Springs and provide the excellent service that we know we do. And we're grateful for the opportunity to do so finally. It's been a whirlwind, and city staff has been amazing to work with. And there's so much to update you on, so I will try not to get scattered and keep it in some kind of order. To remind you, though, and I think most of you are familiar with Waste Pro, we've been in this area since 2001. In fact, our Alachua division was one of the first divisions in our company, and we are now we're now in 10 different states in the southeast region of the United States. We are still privately owned. We're still Florida-based. And our motto is caring for our communities, and we stand by that and always have. I've been with the company for 16 years. And part of the many reasons why I've stayed with the company, one, because of it being privately owned. I always give the example, and Nate can attest to this as well. I have the owner's cell phone number in my phone. Not that I call him, but I can, and that's kind of the point. There's one level of supervision in between myself and the owner. There's not bureaucracy. There's not red tape. Nate is in the same kind of position that I'm in. So it makes it very simple and easy for us to get the job done. And I know that that is very important to this commission and to this city. We have always assisted High Springs with community events along the way when we were asked, even though we weren't serving y'all. That's just what we do and how we are. And in fact, we're looking forward to the end of the month, coming back to Pioneer Days and bringing the garbage service back to that really great event that y'all put on every year. So let's start with my props. So we thought it would be a good idea to bring these in tonight as a visual to show you and to show the members of the audience what would be coming to them shortly within the next few weeks. So you're going to be my Vanna White? You want to be Vanna White? Thank you. So The green can with the blue lid this is gonna be for your garbage, for solid waste. And then, Vanna, please, thank you, very nice, thank you. The blue can with the green lid, that is going to be for recycling. That is a big change for the city of High Springs. So I will explain what you're going from and going to in recycling. So you currently have dual stream recycling. That's what it's called. That's why you have the two bins. We provide single stream recycling. Single stream recycling means you can put your cardboard and paper recycling and your cans and other recyclable materials into one container. We find and stand by that it captures more recyclables because it's a simpler process. The container is larger than the two 18-gallon bins that you have. There's obviously a lid and wheels and the handle. It makes it much easier for your residents to manage and maneuver. And in capturing more recycling, even though there's always some kind of de minimis contamination, the percentage is relative to each other. And we deliver that recycling to, it's called a MRF, Materials Recovery Facility, if you're not familiar with that term, in Ocala that we own. One of the, and I will get to the marketing, public service announcements in just a second, but one of the public service announcements that we're going to be rolling out to your community is a short video about the process from the curb to the truck to the facility and what happens to the materials in the facility. We'll be working on that after we get started, starting on May 1st. Sometime in May, we'll have that video created. I'll be working with Kevin, and we will make sure that that gets, we'll let Kevin direct how that gets out and disseminated to the community. That way people can actually put eyes on the process and see that, yes, it does go to a recycling facility. So the carts, all of the carts, and you've probably been to your sewer plant, water treatment plant. All of the carts, the solid waste carts are in. 70% of the recycle carts are in, and the rest will be coming in very shortly in plenty of time to start service on May 1st. All the dumpsters for all your commercial accounts are all in, and they are all staged and ready to go. We have a flyer that we have been working on with staff, with Kevin. This flyer is intended, and of course we'll be working on this, but it's intended to be hard copy here in City Hall, translated into social media, on your social media sites, and you see the QR code. That QR code will also goes to your highsprings.gov, not the main page, but the solid waste page on your website. And I'll be working, my staff will be working with Kevin on because right now it needs to be updated from the one company to our company. And we'll be working on creating what goes on that page. There will be route maps, and I will get into that in just a second. But we'll also have more detailed information than what's on the flyer, like do's and don'ts for recycling and good information like that will be on that page. For people who are not familiar with your QR code, and for some people that go, what's a QR code? Of course, they can go to your website. So, and of course, if there are people that don't have internet access, there is the flyer, and of course, we're more than happy to help them learn more about the differences in the process and what route they're on. Speaking of routes, you will not have garbage service for your residents on Friday. And I know that's a good thing from what I was told. Because of the quick turnaround to service High Springs, right now we will be servicing residential garbage service. The city will be split up into 4 quadrants, not totally equal, because it's kind of lopsided the way your residences land in the city. But it'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. And that will be disseminated on the website with the route maps. We will also, on the garbage cans, we will be putting stickers on them, not stickers that are gonna last for 10 years, but stickers that will last long enough. It'll be M for Monday or T for Tuesday, et cetera, et cetera. We will also take these flyers and turn them into kind of like a door hanger, but we will hang it on the handle when they're delivered. So we're going to try and get the information out as much as we can, as many times as we can. The intention is not to have a one-time information blitz. The intention is to keep on having a continual blitz over the next month or two, because we understand not only is transition from one company to another in general an educational process, but because of the short time frame that this has been done, it really is going to be an educational process. So we want to make sure that we're continuing to put that information out there to answer any questions that may come up. I lost my train of thought. I was talking about route maps, Monday, Tuesday. Oh, what's Wednesday?
Yard waste.
Wednesday will be yard waste day, and Friday is recycling pickup day, by the way. I talked about the video, I talked about the website, the route maps, the flyer. I am open for questions because I don't know what I haven't touched on immediately. I am certainly open for questions right now.
Yep, I heard you say it. So with the recycling, you're going to have the do's and the don'ts. Pretty much you're going to tell people not to put certain cans, Miller cans, whatever.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Some of the biggest questions we get about recycling still, and I'm glad people ask, it means they're interested, right? I mean, so we want those kind of questions coming in. But like you still cannot recycle styrofoam, for example.
Okay.
You know, that's still not, there's nowhere to take it to. And that's usually the reason why something can't be recycled, is because there's nowhere to take it to or there's no market for it. But general rule of thumb, the same materials that you're putting in now are still fine. So you don't have to decrease what you're recycling. You're just going to be able to put it all in one container. Obviously, cardboard boxes still have to be broken down to be put into the container. You know, there's still some rules that are going to have to be applied. But glass, the major plastics, still can't do the oily pizza box tops, you know, that routine, yes. So that can't be done. So I don't think it's going to be a tremendous amount of change as far as what you're already used to types of recycling. It may be that you're just able to fit, you know, put more in, and your cardboard, if it rains, it's not going to get wet, which makes it worthless. So there'll be more recyclables that will be captured, that is usable, especially. And I anticipate that I mean, I could see some frustration if it's a windy day and the bins aren't, I'm sure sometimes you find that there's recyclables rolling down the road because of a windy day, and you won't have that. So we're going to be able to capture more, definitely. The goal is, in general, for recycling is the more you recycle, obviously the less that's going to the landfill, and that's why we firmly stand by the single stream recycling, because we think there's more to be captured, because it's easier. It's such an easier process, and there's more room. But we will have, yes, we're going to have all kinds of information on your web page inside your website.
Okay, so have a list of what you can
Yes.
and can't. Okay.
Yeah, you'll have that.
Thank
so.
you.
Yes.
2 questions.
Yes.
So does yard waste go in with the other recyclables?
Really good question. No.
Okay.
No. With big N-O. No, yard waste, it does not go into either one of these containers. If you have loose debris, leaves, palm fronds, for example, grass clippings, I guess, if you have your own container, you're more than welcome to put that stuff into a container, not the Waste Pro containers. Other stuff, like limbs. Now, we will not pick up if you've hired a landscaping crew. I know, but I have to say it. If you have a landscaping crew and they've done a whole work and they leave 3 trees on the front of you, no, that's not what this is for. So what we will pick up is limbs no longer than 6 foot long, diameter no wider than 6 inches? 6 inches. And no bigger of a pile than
4 foot wide, 3 foot high, 6 foot long.
That's why I have you. Good. He's a numbers guy. That's why I bring him. Yes. Did you hear that? Okay, so that's what we'll pick up. Now, for example, if someone leaves, if it's not landscaping crew, and someone just leaves a bigger, like they leave twice the size, actually, this is something that we can talk about with staff. We can do one of two things. We can either pick up what's allowed, what he just described, tag the rest of the pile, explaining why we didn't pick it up, and we'll pick up the rest of the following week. Or we can tag the whole pile and tell them they have to break it up. That's something I can work out with staff, so.
Okay. And then my other question is, if I heard that right, you said recycling was Friday, and
Yes.
then there'd be the 4 quadrants the other days
For garbage only.
for garbage only.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to
The whole
put,
town gets done on Fridays for recycling.
right, so that means we have to, instead of putting everything out on the same day, we'd have to remember Fridays are recyclables and, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Question?
Yes, ma'am,
All right.
please. So the single streams go into Ocala, that's great.
Yes.
Levita Brown is not single stream, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Is the class 1 going to Levita Brown still and all going to New River?
Yeah, we have to take the garbage to them.
So, I mean, the attorney and Ashley know that I've asked this question before in terms of alternate places to take our class 1 waste because of the tipping fees at New River are a lot.
Yeah, well, Alachua County has, in order for us to do business in Alachua County, part of our agreement that we have to sign with them is that we take all the garbage to Levita Brown. By statute, they're not allowed, you can't do that with recycling. You can't restrict that. Levita Brown, owned by the county has their contract with New River, as you know, and it's based on tonnage. You know, the more they bring, the more they keep their price down. However, they're also pushing for recycling, so it's, you know, counterintuitive. So we're not able to have another option for Class 1. So,
I know that Scott was looking into that. He was going to meet with Gus Olmos at some point. I don't know if they have yet or not, to see if we could, if we could take it up to Winfield. You know, just some other,
well,
it's
Winfield and
pretty
Columbia
close.
County, Columbia County won't take outside county
right.
garbage.
I don't think Putnam County does either.
And that's too far. That would be
Okay, okay.
counterproductive for us to go all the way to
Yeah, from
Putnam.
here, yeah.
I don't think they do anyway, but that would be too, like,
Yeah.
if we were gonna go somewhere else, it would be west. It would be this way,
Okay.
because we're on
Just thinking what's
the west
open
side
out
of
there.
the county.
Dixie
so,
County. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So, but there isn't anywhere that's got tipping fees lower than what we're dealing with now.
Really?
Yeah, like, for example, Levy County's transfer station is at $63 a ton. Suwannee went up to, I want to say, 85 or something.
If they had a major price increase.
They had a double in their price increase
They
from,
were $4 raise for a
yeah,
while.
I think it's 85. So it's, although it'd be great to be able to find somewhere else, I don't think financially it'd be
Yeah.
productive, so.
I'm really happy to hear about single stream, though.
Yes,
You're
ma'am.
going to capture a bunch
Yes, ma'am.
more.
Yeah, oh yeah, we think so, yeah.
Any other questions?
I have
Nobody
my
else
cards.
here?
I can't get to you, but I have my cards.
That's all right. Are we clearing the audience out there?
Yeah, I know.
Commercial
Yes.
wasn't brought up.
Thank you.
Yes, the dumpsters. We talked to the dumpsters.
There's commercial, non-dumpster.
Oh, we call it commercial hand.
Excuse me,
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
if they have questions,
I am totally out of order.
have them come up front, please.
I forgot which hat I was wearing. I didn't mean to get
Give us your name for the record, please.
Thank you, Gloria, Madam Mayor. Jeffrey Connolly, for the record. I heard it mentioned, it just didn't come up as to what schedule will be the handheld commercial pickup and what's going to be required of the commercial businesses, because right now we have a single can, which everything goes in. So I don't know what the new contract has with regards to
I think,
permissions and restrictions, so.
I think she's using single stream, but she'll tell you.
Yeah, we still, you'll still have a can for your garbage, and however many times a week you got picked up before, unless you change that, is our intention to keep picking up the same amount. Do you have, are you saying you don't have recycling, you just have garbage, right?
There's not a requirement for recycling.
Right, okay, yes, so that you'll, so nothing
No
will,
change.
nothing will change for you except you get this. So,
Excuse me. Hey, everybody. Lanier Smith. I have a question regarding commercial. I'm with the Lions Club. And we have a dumpster now provided by the other service. It's behind a locked gate. So we coordinate, they come, sometimes they come regular, sometimes but on the same day, at least what time. So my question is, will we get some kind of notification of when that dumpster is going to get swapped out? Or will it be tagged like with a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? What's the schedule of commercial dumpsters?
do you have a dumpster or do you have this?
We have a dumpster.
Okay, so I probably need to get your contact information so that
Awesome.
we can, yeah. Now, your lock, is it a number lock or is it a key?
It's a key.
And does the other company have, how do they get in there?
We leave it open for them.
Oh, you do, all right, so that's not a
If we have a
problem.
schedule, we leave it open for them.
Okay, all right, then I will get your information so that we can coordinate that.
Thank you.
Does that sound good? I kind of just spoke for you, I'm sorry. Wait, I better stand aside in case somebody else.
All right, everybody clear?
I just really want to thank you very much. I want to thank the commission, I want to thank city staff for having the faith in us to bring us back and to take this on in such a short notice. The first month or two, again, I stress, it's going to be an educational period. But we will be, that's what I'm here for, that's what Nate's here for, that's what his supervisors are here for. We are available, well, I live in Alachua, as most of you know. Nate doesn't live very far away from here, so we are very accessible. I think some of you see me in your town anyway. I recognize those first two notes. We will work through this together. We will work with staff. If you have any questions as commissioners, please pick up the phone. Absolutely, 100%. I understand that even to an nth degree. Byron's laughing because he knows why I'm laughing. Yeah, I understand what that's like. Please call. We want to make this as smooth as possible. There's going to be some bumps in the road, but I think once we get everybody on board and understanding their schedule and getting used to the newness of everything, I'm confident that you will be happy and your citizens will be happy. I always say that, we're human too, and so I never promise perfection. But what I do promise you is that when there's an issue, I didn't say if, I said when there's an issue, it's how quickly and efficiently we resolve the issue. And that's what I can promise you, is that you will see a complete 100% turnaround in experience, and when you talk trash, it will be a positive experience. So.
The only thing else I would mention is the bulk. It's going from however it was.
Would you like to speak?
Prefer for you to do the
I know
talking.
I don't know what you want
One
to
of the
say.
main differences that I know you guys may have been having issues with previously was bulk was like, I think scheduled like every other week or the first Monday and it's 32nd Tuesday or something. It goes every week with your trash now. If you have a bulk item, you can place it out with your trash. We take it right along with your garbage can. So you don't have to guess when we're coming. If you have something that you need thrown away, it doesn't sit in the backyard for a week or 2 weeks, whenever the schedule is. It's every week you can set it out, so.
And we'll pick up there's a limit of 3 bulk items per week. And obviously, something that doesn't qualify would be, if there was a rental and they cleaned out the entire house and put it all on the street. That's not where that's not part of that. So, yeah, yes, sir.
And you address, can you address the difference between bulk pickup and white goods?
Oh,
real
yes.
quick?
Okay, yeah, so a white good pickup is like a refrigerator, stove, any of your metal
Washing machine.
appliances, washing machines. If you need one of those picked up, you just place it to the curb and call. We send a guy around every week to make sure we continue to collect those. And then your bulk is your couches, beds, mattresses, table, chairs, anything like that. You get a new furniture set, you throw the old one out. That just goes straight to the curb with your garbage. But at white goods, you do have to call and request pickup because it's a special truck. It can't go in the garbage truck. So we don't want to send it around if nothing's out. But if something's out, you just call us and we'll make sure it gets picked up the same week.
Would that information be on your flyer as well when you do it?
Yeah, it'll be definitely on the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna, the
You know,
QR code and the.
Not website, flyer.
You want it on the flyer? Take a look, tell me, did I put it on the flyer? Look under. Bulk items will be picked up weekly on the same day as solid waste. No more than 3 bulk items a week. Construction debris is not bulk. We can add something about white goods. How about that?
That would be perfect.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay. I just know we have some that, not a friend with the website.
I understand. We
I'm
will add,
sure.
I will add a line about white goods to the flyer. Yeah.
Okay, I would appreciate that.
Okay, we can do that, no problem. One more thing that I forgot to mention. We have an online system called Track Easy, and it's no cost to the city. We provide it to all of our cities if they want to use it. And it's an online reporting system. So any calls that you get, that staff gets in, a new business opens up, they need a new can, or somebody says they got missed, or whatever, or somebody's lid is broken, whatever it is. New customers, yeah. Staff will be, whichever staff, training is provided for free. I'll let Ashley and Bruce decide who gets trained on this. They will be able to just put it in, whatever, and it specifies it's a miss, it's a repair, it's a new customer, whatever it is. You click, explain it, address, everything. You put all the information in. It's online and it's live, so it comes right to us. And so we'll be able to see anything that comes in, and then we need to go back in once it's completed and click that it's completed and what we did, and it'll show date and time, et cetera, et cetera. So the city will have a resource to be able to print reports from this, because there's all kinds of reports in this, because you can get specific about how many new customers in the last 60 days or whatever your filters are. And so you'll be able to pull reports anytime you want to see, kind of to have an ongoing live, up to the minute type accountability, I guess you could say. And then, on our end, we also pull reports to make sure that we've been completing things. And even if we completed it, we still need to make sure we put it in the system. And we'll have staff trained on that. And I think it's a more efficient way to communicate from the city to us instead of emails. And of course, I'm not saying don't email, I'm not saying don't call, I'm not saying any of that. But what I'm saying is it's a centralized location for all of that information to be, and it keeps accountability. So we will be providing that to the city. So.
And the other nice thing about the software as well is if they have a tag, they go out and do a pile, they tag it, we can also see it in-house. So if Mrs. Smith calls and says, hey, mine wasn't picked up, we can go in the system and see if it was already tagged, and it will tell us why. So we'll be able to communicate that as well. So that information's real time, so it goes back and forth. So we'll be able to communicate better with our citizens as well, instead of having to go, hey, let us send an email and go back and forth is what we've been dealing with. So the information stream's gonna be a lot better.
Yeah, we can add pictures in, if there's a dumpster that was overflowing, our driver will take a picture of that and get it to us so that we can attach it to that report that we're telling you about. Hey, this dumpster keeps on being overflowing. Maybe they need more service, or maybe they need a bigger dumpster. How do we fix this problem? Another thing too, pictures, and this reminds me, all of our trucks have video cameras, and we can watch them live from our office if we need to. But front of the truck, back of the truck, sides, in the cab, a lot of reasons to have that, mainly safety, for our driver and for not just accountability, but just so that we can see if there's coaching that needs to be done. But we're able to pull up video. We're also able to pull up GPS tracking, so we can see to the second what time they were in front of that customer. So we're able to either determine, for example, that our driver did miss it, or Mrs. Smith put it out just 30 minutes too late. But either way, you know, we can get it taken care of, so definitely. And especially in the beginning, we understand there's gonna be some confusion about days. I don't want anybody worrying about, well, if they missed me because I didn't know the day, we're not gonna come back till the we're gonna be here every single day of the week. I mean, really, if you think about it, we can go back and take care of it. We'll get everybody on board, so.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Good.
Madam Mayor, may I ask one more question? Since you mentioned bulk goods, are we
Yeah.
disposing of that as Class 1, or do we have a Class 3 option with that kind of stuff? Is it all going to a Class 1 landfill?
That's bulk's going to Class 1. I can't help it.
I know you can. I know. Thank you.
I know, I feel it, but I can't help it.
Question right here. What about the that we have now?
Mr. Lynch, can you come up to the mic and give us your name? And I know it's Mr. Lynch. But we want it on the record.
David Lynch, L-I-N-C-H. What about the containers that we have now, the two big bulk containers that we have now and the small recycle? Who will pick those up and when?
The current garbage provider, GFL, is required to pick up their cans, so they will be picking them up around the 28th of this month, and it'll go through the weekend, and your new cans will already be here at that time, which you can start using as soon as they pick up their cans.
So we should have it out there for them to pick up?
Yes, sir, just when you do your normal trash pickup, leave your can and recycles out there, they should take it with them.
The 28th?
The 28th, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Which reminds me to reiterate, don't start using our cans until May 1st.
Okay.
Try not to. So,
Okay.
yeah,
May 1st.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Our next item is recognition of High Springs Fire Department.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioner. I was sharing with Ashley that just recently I was asked to speak at the Shands University of Florida Medical Symposium they do. I don't know if it's a quarterly thing or an annual thing. This was their 10th annual. It's a what they call grand rounds, and essentially what it is, they select cases that have come in through the hospital that are cases of interest, and they follow them from point of entry, in this case, in our particular case, point of entry being an ER, to time of discharge. The particular case that I was asked to speak in regards to is involving a cardiac arrest that occurred here in the city back in December at the farmer's market. I don't know if you guys are probably somewhat familiar with it. The long and short of it is this. I was able to respond along with the crews and the apparatus that were dispatched to it. The call actually came into the city, to the fire department, as a fall patient. Kevin and I were actually sitting in our office monitoring the call and noticed a large amount of law enforcement officers also responding to that, and it sort of caught my attention. So I thought, let me ease over there and see what's going on. As I crossed the street, I actually witnessed law enforcement, as they're oftentimes doing, very actively participating in CPR. So at that point, we upgraded it to a cardiac arrest. Not that it changed our response protocol at all. We already had all the appropriate units responding. I arrived on scene, deployed the Zoll monitor that I carry, and working in conjunction with the officers who are already doing CPR, and basically transferred them from their defibrillator over to our Zoll monitor. We witnessed that it was in fact what we call a shockable rhythm. They were in he was in full cardiac arrest, but it's in what we in the ALS field call a shockable rhythm, which is what made it the case that was unique to the hospital for review. It's not that there's not a lot of cases where you have cardiac arrest. This particular case, as you're probably also well aware of, the gentleman still resides here in the city limits of High Springs. He was, in fact, he recovered from the cardiac arrest. We actually worked him at the scene for almost 15 minutes before loading him up. I was actually able to go with the rescue and continue care en route to the hospital. We were on the way to Shands. About halfway there, we noticed after shocking him about 6 times and administering a multitude of ALS drugs that his rhythm finally converted. We got what's called ROSC, which is return of spontaneous circulation, at which point in time he began to basically recover and regain consciousness. We extubated him, removed him from the Lucas device. By the time we arrived at Shands at the hospital, I had the gentleman sitting up. He recognized that we were at a hospital bay. I was talking to him at that point, and he asked me, are we at the VA? I reported, sadly, we're not at the VA, and they'd be more than happy to take him there if it was necessary, but in the interim, he was going to be admitted in the hospital. The physicians met us at the back door. We were transporting a cardiac arrest, so very quickly the doors opened, a multitude of people came in, and I introduced them to our patient, who was more than happy to say hi. So anyway, at the Grand Rounds, what they do is they bring in everybody. They bring in the thoracic surgeon, they bring in the cardiologist, they bring everybody. They review the case, they review the pharmacology, all the dynamics of this. And like I said, follow him all the way through. He was there for a month. He was sent home. As far as I know, if anybody knows, he is doing well. He did recover fully from what I understand, and we're happy to report that. The biggest takeaway, in addition to the fact that it was an honor to be asked to speak at that, was this is just yet another example of a successful cardiac arrest that we were able to go from the initial basically chain of life where effective CPR is being administered prior to our arrival. We transitioned to an ALS procedures, which is something that this commission voted about, 4 or 5 years ago to go. And it just another I think, personification of the decision that you made and the fact that it serves our citizens well. So we're very happy that that was the case. The outcome was a good outcome, and that's the long and short of it. But it was a really good thing to be recognized, and I was sharing with Ashley, and she brought to my attention that it's definitely something that should be shared with you in addition to the members of the public. So happy to report that.
And we say thank you. Thank you so very much. Yes. All right, moving right along, we're going to do our next item, which is F on unfinished business. Discuss, consider, and act on an amendment to the Blue Gym site plan located at 19544 Northwest US Highway 441.
Good evening, Commission. We are pulling up the PowerPoint for you. It's real quick.
Okay.
So you saw the Blue Gem Motel pretty recently. They did a minor site plan where they added a pole barn and a fence. This is just a minor change that they needed to do on the size of the pole barn. It's not moving locations. There's no additional buildings, nothing like that. So the original that they got approved by you all was 30 by 48. They want to go to a 40 by 40. There was an issue on site when they started doing the construction of where that old pool was with the concrete, and it was in the way, and it would be very costly to remove. So they asked that we bring forward this one minor change, and the contractor is here tonight if you have any technical questions for him. So I'll leave it at that.
I wanted to add that the building will not be any higher than what was currently proposed. Just reiterate that.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. No comments, no concern? It is a small issue to deal with. Nothing? Okay. Any questions on this from the audience? Okay, then
I make a motion, we approve the amendment to the site plan located at the Blue Gym.
I second it.
all right, it's been properly moved and second that the amendment be approved for Blue Gym. All those in favor respond with aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Okay, amendment approved, 5-0. All right, our next item is citizens' requests and comments for issues that are not on the agenda. Please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Doris Wright.
Right.
First, I want to say George was at the podium. Where we do the giveaway for the food. George was there this morning, walking around and talking to us. That's the one the fireman was talking about.
All right.
Okay, my thing is.
Oh, that's who it was, George. Yeah, okay.
My thing is concerning dogs and pigs in the community. I had talked to the police once about the dogs, but they did come out and they had to put a fence up. But my thing is, they're putting the wrong type of fences up in the community. They're putting harsh fences up. And anytime you walk out into my yard, those dogs are barking because they can see you. If the city would stipulate the type of fence that they supposed to put, maybe a privacy fence or something, those dogs won't see you every time you walk out in the yard. And now the smell is getting pretty bad because they don't clean up behind them dogs. Now they got a pig walking around in there. So what else they gonna do? They gonna stop bringing horses? We need to put a stop to this. I have been living in my house for 40 years or longer, and it's not good. I love working in my yard, and I'm afraid to walk in the yard. Those dogs one day gonna jump them fences, and the pig gonna put a hole under there, and them dogs can come under there. What y'all want me to do? I can't outrun no dog. So I'm asking y'all to do something about it, before I have to do a lawsuit on somebody, and then somebody gonna have to do it. Will y'all please look into that? Let's don't let these fences come up in our community. And if I'm bothered with a fence, and close as these houses is, they gonna have dogs too. So we need to put a stop to that right now. A different type of fence. When you walk out in your yard, these dogs don't see you. And every time you walk out, they're barking. That's not a good thing. I wanna enjoy my yard, but I can't do it with what I'm going on in my yard. Ride down to my yard, please. I want y'all to ride down so y'all can see what I'm going through. Byron will show you where I live. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Linda Jones, for the record. I'm here tonight to speak to the ongoing issue of my tenure as the liaison between the city and the chamber. A couple of years ago, Sharon Decker was struggling to communicate with the city regarding the chamber. She and her new board were trying to reestablish the chamber, which has become somewhat inactive. I approached Ashley and Bruce regarding my request to fill the communication problem, and will read the memo I sent to them we used as discussion during our meeting. Stated June 18, 2021, to Ashley Stathatis, City Manager, and Bruce Gillingham, Assistant City Manager, regarding High Springs Chamber. I'm going to become a volunteer for the Chamber. I will sit in the office at least once a week during normal work hours of 10 to 2. I'm going to support the President and her board as the liaison with the city. The Chamber needs clarification on the following issues. These are past due, but I'm going to read them as they're part of the memo. Number 1, the city rents the building to the Chamber for a small amount per year, but they don't have clear guidelines as to who maintains the building, particularly the restrooms. It is my opinion that the Chamber should not be responsible for maintaining the restrooms. Visitors, as well as residents of High Springs, use these facilities, particularly Fridays during farmers market or other pavilion events. Item 2, Maintenance of the building. It is my opinion that a contract needs to be written so that the chamber clearly knows their responsibilities and who to call for issues deemed responsibilities of the city. Item number 3, it is my opinion that the chambers should maintain their own computers. During the last GAI meeting, it was said that the city businesses are not working together. Right now, the chamber is not being included in events. In fact, there seems to be a concerted effort to exclude them. The chamber has a completely new board, and they are working very hard to change their reputation, but they are receiving very little support. Please let me know how I can facilitate as a volunteer/liaison. I signed it as Commissioner of City of High Springs. They agreed, Ashley and Bruce, that it was a good idea. There was no commission vote. It was very informal, but not a secret. I did not delve into their membership, events planned, or financial accounts. I was there to hear their needs as far as the city was concerned. Commissioner Whites was a volunteer with the chamber and kind of took over my position when I was no longer on the commission. I am now on the chamber board as secretary. Thank you.
David Lynch, L-I-N-C-H. John Hill was a city commissioner here, and he was mayor. He was an Englishman. He came here in 1958. I met him in 1958. I was only 16 years old, and he was a lifelong friend after that. And his funeral was held on February 25th at the Methodist Church. It was a very large turnout. He was president of Loncala. He served as mayor and city commissioner. After Jim Drum was fired, during the turmoil that followed that, he presided over a couple of city commission meetings. Anyway, he died, and I think there should be a message put out on the board in memory of John Hill. He was a very good citizen, productive, contributed a lot to the community. And also, many people have spoken out against growth recently. Recently, a 2,000 unit development was approved. Many people have spoken against growth, and I urge the commissioners not to approve any other large developments. And also, I read in the paper that Chief Shepherd was told to go to the city of Alachua and determine if looser rules relating to alcohol use resulted in a higher crime rate. So that right there just shows the evil of alcoholic beverages. And alcoholic beverages kill over 200 people each day. But yet, High Springs Brewing is using the High Springs name to promote a product that kills over 200 people each day.
Thank you.
My name is Nicole Linas. I am the executive director of a river cleanup nonprofit organization that's based right here. We were founded in 1993 by a group of artists who paddled the Santa Fe River and started an organization from which they wanted to establish conservation as a part of the way that people did recreation here in North Florida. 30 years later, I'm proud to say that we are the only freshwater debris cleanup organization in the entire Southeast. We are still based here, and we have removed over 1,022,000 pounds of trash and debris out of our local waterways here in North Florida. We work with school groups, we work with volunteers. We've worked with over 22,000 volunteers across all of North Florida. We mostly focus in the Santa Fe and Suwannee watershed, and we also do lakes, sinkholes, creeks, any sort of waterway or watershed that contributes to the health of our water quality here in this area. It's the heart and the focus of our work. So 30 years ago when we started as a collaboration with Canoe Outpost at the 441 bridge on the Santa Fe River with Jim Wood. A lot of you, almost everybody in here probably knows Jim Wood. Well, a few years ago, the city purchased that property and now there's a separate company now that's running the outpost portion out of that river. Jim Wood, for 28 years, while he was running that location, allowed us to use the boats to do our cleanup program once a month. And so once a month, I would give him a call, and we would coordinate and get, whatever Boy Scout troop was available to go clean up their portion of the river. Now that it's different ownership, Anderson's Outdoor Adventures has, they have different requirements. They want it to work a little bit differently. So for 2 years now, we've worked with one of the city employees out of the Parks and Rec department to coordinate the program, and they've found a way to have the city provide funding, I think through the Parks and Rec department, for the rental of the boats for our volunteers to use for those cleanups. However, that employee has since moved, and so we're sort of juggling what comes next for us. It's an incredible program. It's 30 years long standing. We engage local volunteers, kids groups, it's education, it's outreach. We reuse, recycle, or repurpose 63% of what we pull out of the water. So it doesn't just go to landfill, it goes to outreach and education. It goes to, we make sculptures and trash candles out of the things that we find to engage people in understanding what the next lives for their products can be, and to sort of educate on the whole waste cycle. So in future, I would love to see the city be part of that program and partner with us in the future as we sort of enter into our next decade. And so if that could be a part of a future city budget, I think it would be really great. It's not an expensive program. It costs about $5,000 a year to run the entire program. So I think it's a worthwhile investment for this area. The areas of the river that we focus on primarily are from 441 to 47. And so we're running people straight through the center of High Springs when we have these volunteer cleanups. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention. In a future meeting, I'll probably put something on the agenda so I can show you all the pictures of happy volunteers and piles of garbage. But tonight, I just wanted to bring it to your attention and have it on your minds.
Thank you.
I'm Sally Milner. I'm the president of the GFWC High Springs New Century Women's Club, otherwise just known as that place next door. I'm up here basically to thank all the commissioners, the staff, the fire department, the police department, for all of the support that you've given us for the last, well, I can say for the last 15, 20 years that I know of, but we are almost 125 years old. And it's just been such a pleasure to work with the staff. They have been marvelous. They have supported us. They've come up with ideas we've never thought of on things to do. And that's my entire thing, is that I appreciate every one of you and what y'all have done. And thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Good evening.
Bruce Borders, 21535 South 441 High Springs, Florida. Afraid I wasn't gonna make it. First thing I want to say is I was very saddened yesterday. Watch out now. You're not escaping. That we lost one of our great pioneers, heroes for the city of High Springs. Our great chief, one of the best chiefs in the world, father. Outstanding man. And I want to say condolence. I've already told him. whatever he needs out of Standing United Americans, he'll get it. So I'm just waiting. Might do something at a better date. We might be at the funeral. Well, I'll be at the funeral Saturday. So I want to tell the chief we're behind him, the community behind him. And the other thing there is I'm behind every one of y'all. You hear what I said? For looking at making High Springs what it is today. I'm still against, and I'll be against till Christmas. Can't do nothing about it now, but hey, that man right there, his group, all these workers back here, High Springs, the fire chief, the acting fire chief, all their people, they are doing all the work for Pioneer Day and for Christmas. They worked at 2 o'clock in the morning after the thing there to take care of what they have to do. All the money is coming out of City High Springs. We're glad to have a good city manager, like she is working on it. Her family has to take rap because of these people that ain't lived here 2 years coming in here trying to take over. And all, the chief, fire chief, and the chief police, rap and all that. I'm behind you 100%, no 1,000%. Let's take back the city of High Springs and make it like it used to be. And let the city run everything since they're paying everything. God bless you. God bless High Springs. And God is still in High Springs. God bless you. And I'll be back up here for number 7. That man right there. So y'all have a good day. God bless you. And we're behind you. Anytime you need me, preacher.
All right.
Madam Mayor and all that stuff. Anybody. And I've only had trouble with one. She thinks that's what she needs to do. That's all right. God bless you.
Okay, thank you. All right, any comment for the commissioners? Oh, we got one more.
Yep, you got one more.
One
Good
more.
evening, Madam Mayor,
All right.
Commissioners. My name is Lanier Smith. I'm on 237th Street. I just want to say thank you. Some improvements were made to the signs on the road. Chief Shepherd has talked about maybe engaging some other activity down there to slow the traffic down. I noticed the new stop sign just today, but I noticed it already made a difference. The job's not exactly complete. They missed one sign down off of 340, but I appreciate. I know y'all get banged up quite a bit from time to time, so I just want to say thank you. You know, it's all patience and working together, right?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Mayor? Yeah, I've had a couple of citizens ask about fence rules, and we don't have an ordinance on fences right now, I understand, so maybe that needs to be on our radar as we are a growing community and have additional, infill happening, is that maybe we look at that and see if that's something that we can help facilitate quality of life. And then as a former contractor with the Canoe Outpost, I'm very aware of the river cleanups. And quite frankly, Mr. Wood thought that was part of his stewardship of the river since he was benefiting from it as part of his business. And I thought that was in our language with our current contractor, that kind of partnership with the city for groups and types of things would be happening. So hopefully staff can pursue that a little more and see why that kind of cooperation in something that really supports our community is now at a price.
Anyone else? No? Okay. We will move to new business. Item H, Community Development Block Grant Program, first public hearing.
Good evening, I'm David Fox with Fred Fox Enterprise. This is an advertised first public hearing for a 2022-2023 CDBG grant application. I'm gonna be going over this handout, that was provided to everybody, and there's some extra copies on the back table back there, if anybody wants a copy. It's got the little white box with the CDBG label on it. On page 2, the city is eligible to apply for up to $700,000 of community development block grant funds. There are 4 categories under this program. I'm going to go over mostly in detail on the first 3, and then number 4 I'll just hit quickly. Under housing, you can either apply for a housing rehabilitation grant, or a commercial revitalization grant, or a neighborhood revitalization grant. So you can only apply for one. Under housing rehabilitation, you're going to address owner-occupied houses located in the city limits between low to moderate income, and you address all code violations, health and safety issues. For the $700,000 maximum amount, you're going to address probably 5 or 6 homes based on the amount of items you have to address. If the house is bad enough shape, you can actually tear it down and replace it. The second possible category is commercial revitalization. Once again, you can only apply for up to $700,000 in that category. In that one, you go down to a downtown area or commercial area. You can address streetscape, sidewalks, pedestrian malls, building facades, parking lots, undergrounding of utilities. Under that category, we'd have to do a citywide survey to document at least 51% of the residents in the city are low to moderate income. Or number 3, you could apply for a neighborhood revitalization application, which address infrastructure needs within low to moderate income neighborhoods. Once again, we would determine that based on a door-to-door random or door-to-door survey or random survey based on the beneficiaries. You can address under that infrastructure needs, water lines, sewer lines, plumbing, community centers, parks, water plants, sewer plants. Under 1, 2, or 3, you can only apply for one. Under category number 4, economic development, where under 1, 2, or 3, you can only apply for one, and you can't reapply until if you have an open grant until you close it out. Number 4 is a job creating. It's economic development. You can apply actually up to $1.5 million under that category alone. You could apply every year as long as you're current on your projects, and you could apply for economic development funds even if you have a housing, a commercial, or a neighborhood. That's the only category you can apply and have one of the other grants open. Must have a job creator or developer included with the application. For every job they create, you can apply for up to $34,199.99. The developer must be part of the application and submit paperwork as part of the application with the city. The work under the economic development is going to be done on the city's right-of-way. You're not going to actually do anything on the site that the developer has, but you can put in deceleration lanes, you can put in lift stations, water systems as needed to get that developer needed utilities to come to town. It's like an enticement thing. Any questions so far on page 2? On page 3, we talked about low to moderate income. These are based on area median. Under a housing grant, all your houses addressed would have to be below 80% or equal in low moderate income. So if you did a house with a family of 4, it'd have to be below $65,500. A family of 6, 6,000, and then a family of 8, 86,500. And it breaks it by household size. I just want to give you an idea of how it breaks out. Under your neighborhood and commercial grants, at least 51% of the people benefiting would have to meet those income criteria, and that's determined by a survey. On page 4, there's steps when applying for a community development block grant, and there's points in the application. You're competing with other small cities and counties across the state of Florida that are non-entitlement and that do not have an open existing community development small cities program grant. So you can get additional points in the application by putting in leverage. For every $2,000 you put into the application toward the project, then you can get 1 point, or up to $50,000 in leverage would give you 25 points. If the project doesn't get funded, then of course you don't have to spend the leverage money. It's just for points in the application and if funded. There's also additional 50 points you can get in the application for being shovel ready, meaning the design's complete and the permits have been applied for. If you go in shovel ready, if you go in to get the 50 points Even if funded, you will not get reimbursed for that cost for the design. On page 5, there's steps when applying for a CDBG application. The first step is you appoint a Citizen Advisory Task Force, which you have previously appointed. The second is you advertise and hold a Citizen Advisory Task Force or CATF meeting. That was advertised and held at 5:30 today. Third, you advertise and hold a first public hearing, which we're doing right now. Fourth is you advertise and hold a fair housing workshop, which is going to be after this first public hearing. And then once we get a project together, an application together, we will, the city will apply or advertise for a second public hearing. The applications are due May 5th, 2023. This is the second half of a 2020, there was a 2021-2022 cycle. Every application that was submitted was funded, and they had additional funds remaining. That's why they're having a second 2022 cycle. There's about, I believe, around 15 million, don't hold me to that, but about half the pot is available. It's usually available. And if you don't get funded under the 22 cycle or 22B cycle, then you can reapply in the fall for the 23 cycle. That's when the advertisement for this public hearing was actually 2022, 2023. Page 6, are there any questions from the board? This is just information on the steps and for public comment. If not, if Ms. James, Mayor, if you'll open it up for public comment.
I don't see a soul.
If you'll close the public comment.
We will close public comment at this time.
That's all I have for the first public hearing information.
All right, thank you for that. All right, let's go to the next one. Community Development Block Grant Program Fair Housing Workshop.
Good evening. Once again, I'm David Fox with Fred Fox Enterprise. This is an advertised fair housing workshop as part of your 2022-2023 CDBG application. I'm going to review the one with the bricks on the front page. And there are some extra copies on the back table if anybody would like to follow along. First page is Equal Opportunity for All. The second is the Fair Housing Act. What does it do? The Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing-related transactions, including the sale, rental, or financial of dwellings. Discrimination includes refusing to rent to someone, steering someone away to a particular type of housing or neighborhood, enacting zoning measures to exclude particular groups because of membership in protected class. And I want to go over the protected classes with you on page 3. Protected classes include race, color, religion, national origin, sex, familiar status, and disability. On page 4, what is prohibited under the Fair Housing Act? No one may take any of the following actions based on race, color, religion, sex, disability, familiar status, or national origin. They can't refuse to rent or sell housing based on one of the categories. You can't refuse to negotiate for housing based on the category. You can't set different terms or parameters based on one of the categories. You can't falsely deny that housing is unavailable when it is. You can't for profit persuade or try to persuade homeowners to sell or rent dwellings by suggesting that people of a particular race, age, sex, etc. have moved or are about to move into a neighborhood. And you can't deny any person access to membership or participation in any organization, facility, or service related to the sale or rental of dwellings. On page 5, it gets more detail into what familiar status is. It is unlawful to discriminate against a person whose household includes one or more children who are under the age of 18, in which one or more children live with a parent or legal custodian. On page 6, there are protections based on disability. If you have a physical or mental disability, including hearing, mobility, and visual impairments, cancer, chronic mental illness, or HIV, that substantially limits one or more major life activities, or if you regard as having such a disability, you cannot refuse to make the reasonable modifications to your dwelling at your expense. So if you have rented an apartment and you need to put in a handicap ramp, They can't not allow you to put the ramp in, but they can require you to go take it back when you move out and remove the ramp and bring it back to the original condition. And then once again, a building with no pets policy must allow visually impaired tenant to keep a guide dog. What housing is exempt? Not everybody's covered under the Fair Housing Act. The Federal Fair Housing Act exempts owner-occupied buildings with no more than 4 units and single-family housing sold and rented without the use of a broker. So if you have a garage apartment, you're exempt from the Fair Housing Act. Once you get over 4 units, and you're then fall under the Fair Housing Act. Or if you use a realtor in any situation, even with 1 unit, you fall under the Fair Housing Act. And then there are some waivers for intended for solely occupied persons, 55 or 62 communities. If you feel like you're discriminated when you go to apply for or to look at a home or rent a property, there's avenues you can go through to file complaints. You can go through the Florida Commission on Human Relations. You can go through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. There's a Southeast Region office out of Atlanta, and the city will have a copy of this in their at City Hall if you need a copy of how to contact them. There's a website, and then also U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development office in D.C. They have a website, and it'll walk you through filing a complaint. And their website's www.hud.gov/fair housing. When you file a fair housing complaint on slide 9, these are the steps you have to take. You're going to provide your name and address, the name and address of the person your complaint is against, the address or other identification of the housing unit that was involved, a short description of the alleged violation, and the date the alleged violation occurred. What happens when you file a complaint? HUD has an investigative department for filing housing complaints. The officer receiving the complaint will notify the person filing the complaint and the alleged violator. They investigate your complaint and determine whether there is reasonable cause to believe that the respondent violated the Fair Housing Act. They'll notify you and the respondent within 100 days. And then during the complaint investigation, HUD is required to offer you and the respondent the opportunity to voluntarily resolve your complaint with a conciliation agreement. Page 11, this is just an informational, fair housing information. There's no action required, but I'll answer any questions you may have. The board or the public.
Questions, comments, commissioners? Questions from the audience? Okay, we close the audience participation section. Item number 3. Discuss, consider, and act on community development block grant program.
Once again, I'm David Fox with Fred Fox Enterprise. I provide you a lot of information tonight in a quick amount of time, so I know it's hard to sink in, but the applications are due May 5th. We met with the Citizens Advisory Task Force previously today. The recommendation is that the city move forward with an application in the neighborhood revitalization category for the May 5th cycle due date, and to look at possible infrastructure projects ranging from water line possibility to drainage in certain areas. It wasn't finalized, but they just gave us a direction. So what we're looking at tonight is getting direction from you. Do you want to move forward with a neighborhood revitalization application based on the CATF recommendation and then public comments you've received? Or do you want us to look at a different cycle or different category, or just trying to get direction if you'd like us to move forward with this application cycle and move forward with a neighborhood application? If so, direction to get with staff on a project.
Commissioners?
Mayor, there are 4 areas of the city that qualify for these type of grants, correct?
It's all
Or
based, and that's
residential
what you're
or-
doing. If it's like a paving project, it would be just the houses on that street, so, or water lines, so that street would have to be LMI. If you're doing a water plant project, then we'd have to survey everybody, a random survey citywide to meet that 51%. But I can't actually say if there's an exact number of areas that would meet. I know
Okay.
you've had several areas in the past, you've had at least 3 that I'm aware of that have met.
Okay, and it's not like they don't need new roads or drainage help. There are a number of those areas around, so I'm all for staff getting with you and looking at what the opportunities are.
I would agree. More infrastructure getting done is better. So I'm completely on board with that, and if that's what people came and wanted, I think that's important for us to get done.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
you may.
I'd like for us to try to focus on the projects that the Citizens Advisory Task Force wanted, though. I mean, their preference was definitely water lines. I know that tightens up the potential areas where we can use this, but that was their recommendation, and I think it's important that we support their desire.
It was water lines, and it was also drainage.
The drainage was one that Bruce brought to the task
If
force.
you go with a water line project, then we may not be able to meet the May 5th, because we've got to determine where streets you're looking at, and we'll get with staff on that, but that maybe have to come into the fall cycle. Which these meetings meet that same criteria, we just wouldn't submit till the fall cycle, because you have to document the low to moderate incomes, we have to survey whatever.
Right.
The drainage area was surveyed last time, so we have the 51% documentation for that. But if we go to a new street for water lines, then we're gonna try to make the deadline, but I can't guarantee that on that.
But we would have to be finished with that project before we could apply for another one, is that correct?
Yeah, no matter if
That
you
I
go in this
understood?
cycle or next cycle, once you get funded, you have to finish that project before you can apply for any of the housing, commercial, or neighborhood.
And what are the deadlines for the fall? Would we be
They
able to
haven't told
finish the drainage
Hopefully,
project even before those were, because the task force was pretty clear that they wanted to focus on water lines, so that's
So
why
what-
I'm
Yeah, so what we
pushing
would
on
need to
that.
do, if that's the case, do you want to say, did you have something to say? If that's the case, you're gonna need, if you're looking at water lines, and we'd have to get with the engineer and determine the area, and we'd have to find out who our beneficiaries are, and then do a survey, a door-to-door survey by the May 5th deadline, which it may not, it's gonna be close. So what you may wanna look at then is, if you're going with a water line project, applying in the fall, they haven't given us a date yet. They just let us know this 45 days ago, they decided to spend the rest, or 60 days, less than 60 days ago, to spend the rest of this cycle money. So they're saying the fall, but they never provide us a date. It's never the same time every year.
So just to clarify a couple things, when we looked at this, when it was brought to our attention, as we were wrapping up the other CDBG project, when we were wrapping up that project, we were looking for other areas that were eligible for water lines. I think we've hit them all. We're still digging through, because there's only 3 areas of town that meet this LMI, and that's set through the census. So that LMI has to be below 51%. So some areas that you would assume are in LMI, the way the census blocks work, actually fall into different areas of town as well, so it drives the LMI up. So we've got 2 areas we've done. Actually, we combined 2 areas over here when we did this water line project as well, I believe. That has pretty much covered that whole LMI area. So when we started looking at some of the projects that we felt would be eligible, or some other improvements we could do in those areas, there was that drainage issue over there at the old 4th and 3rd where all that water collects in that area, and there's some stormwater runoff issues over there that needed to be addressed as well. And we felt like, because we know the LMI meets that area, that was the direction we should go. That's from a staff standpoint. We don't believe, and this is from talking with Mid-Tower, looking at the LMI, that there's gonna be anything else that's gonna meet the water line criteria, but that information changes. So if we don't have anything that's specifically measured within that LMI or those census tracts, we have to go door to door within those areas and do surveys and bring the information back and see if we can get anything to go or not. So that's the difference between where we're at now and what surveys have been done and what we would need to accomplish to get to that next level.
I have a question. If we do the survey route for the water lines for any reason, do y'all do the door-to-door or does staff do the door-to-door?
If it's a time crunch like now, then we wouldn't have to get staff to help us.
Mhm.
If you want to look at applying in the fall and we can get more data together, it's just such a short time to get all the data, because we have to map it, we have to do the randomizer, put it on the CAD system, then pick which houses we have to hit based on the program through HUD and everything. So if it's in the fall, we can do it. But if
Yeah.
it's going to be the May 5th deadline and we're changing the service or looking at different service areas, which there's no problem with, that's why we're here tonight, then we would just need to help to do that by the May 5th, but we could do it in the fall.
Yeah, I knew it could be really take a lot of time and be time intensive, so that's why I asked.
And a lot of times you don't get the response. If
Mhm.
people don't respond, you gotta show them over income on a survey.
So let me ask you a question in terms of eligibility for CDBG neighborhood improvement. That's obviously a priority for our task force. How many different projects do we know that would be eligible for that? Could we be better prepared to not be, because I had no idea what projects we were going to be talking about because there's nothing in our packet. Normally, if there was something that we were voting on, I would drive down there and look at it. I didn't have that opportunity to do that because Madam Mayor and I just heard about it when we came for the earlier meeting, but how many other projects, because it's obvious neighborhood improvement is a priority, how can we identify longer range without it being cost prohibitive for you?
Before tonight, there's no project that was defined. That's what we had in tonight's meeting. That's the whole purpose of the public hearing in the CATF, is to get a direction to go into. And that's a requirement of the program. So there was no predetermined, hey, we're doing this. It was just trying to get input and what we had available, the back and forth, and to get out the information. Repeat your question. I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
I'm just trying to identify how many, so that we're not crunching up against a deadline like this again, and maybe would have more time to consider and bring different projects to the task force to consider in advance. How do we identify how many projects would be eligible for CDBG funding like this?
What you can do is you have a list of items that you want. You kind of need to rank them, and then we could go out and determine. We can't go hit every area. I mean, it's just not time. Even being in the fall, every area has to have its door-to-door survey. There's no way to get all that data together. You kind of need to do a ranking system of this is the need, this is the areas. Let's go and we can do a sort by the ride-by, and then look at some neighborhoods you can go to and say there's just not going to. There could be a gated community. I don't know if y'all have those, but it could be a gated community. That's not going to happen. But if it's something that it looks like it could possibly meet the low to moderate income, or if it's a retirement community or something like that, then it may. But we would need some kind of list from the city. The city would need to get with the engineer, do a desired list, and then look at the projects and do some kind of ranking on, based on one, the area and how they think the income's going to fall, and then two, what project has the most need, and from there we can do the door-to-door survey and see if it's a possible project.
And the other thing too is, while we tend to look at the next cycle or what we think with the LMI where we're going to go and what we're going to try to do, we don't have them set in stone. The only reason this even came about was because we were looking at some of the drainage issues when we were doing the water lines down there, so it was just something we had on the burner when this cycle opened. If we wait till the fall, it's not going to be like, okay, we know this is going to happen in the fall, now we have 6 months to make this happen. It's going to be, we know we're gearing up for this, but we're going to get noticed by email, hey, you got 30 days to get this done. It doesn't give us a larger window. It just says, hey, we know we have these projects that possibly we could fund if the CDB becomes available. So they only give us a certain amount of time in that cycle. They say, hey, it opens on September 30th. We know like normally a week ahead of time, and boom, it's done by the end of October, and we got a lot of hoops to jump through.
And it's not the same time every year.
Yeah, it's a moving target. We don't know. It could be September this year, next year it could be August, the year after that it could be December. It's just whenever they decide to release it. October.
It's all over the place, yeah.
Yeah.
So then we really have no certain knowledge that we could even finish this project before the next cycle opened anyway.
We're not going to be, usually a contract is 30-month contract, and you have to do a full environmental review of the whole area, which takes about 6 to 8 months. So it's going to be 6 to 8 months, and you have to complete that and get approval from the state before you can even go to bid on the project. So you're looking at 6 to 8 months before you can even start to go to bid on the project. So you're looking at a good 2-year project.
So that's important to know then, because if we go ahead with this drainage project now, the fall cycle is not going to matter. We're not going to be looking at any kind of water line improvements because we won't have time to do it.
And the fall cycle may not matter anyhow if we decide to go a different direction, because we may not have it done by then either. So it's just, this was, because this area was already surveyed and done, and we know that we already have some drainage reports from that area, that we know we can capture this in time. If we go to, say, a water line project or sewer or a different stormwater area, we may not even be able to get that information together by this fall anyhow.
And one of the options is, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not telling you what direction, I'm not giving you advice on what direction, I'm just giving you the options. same thing with the projects, is you apply, if you decide you want to do a project that you know that you already got surveys on, or another project, then why it's once you submit it, and if you get funded, why it's going through the process, go ahead and find a second project that you can apply for next time. This is going to take you a good 60, 90 days, if not more, to define your project, to map it, to do the door-to-door surveys, to use your data, and then you can tell what your area is. So it may be something you can do while you've got one funded, determine another project in the meantime, that we're not waiting till the last minute, and that's on our end. And we didn't know that the application was coming till the last minute in this case, because like I said, you didn't make the last project cycle, the 21-22, because the project wasn't finished yet, and then we didn't realize that they were going to have a second 22. So we just, when y'all found out, pretty much we found out.
I would like to add something, because back in the day, I've not been the person that knocked on doors. So you kind of want to have some idea and almost a partial commitment before you start knocking on doors, because when you do, you have to ask them uncomfortable questions that not everyone wants to provide, their income levels and all the in-depth information you have to ask them. So for them to give you that personal information, and then for you then to change the project or not to decide to do the project, you're the minute you knock on the door, they think that project's going to happen. So,
Or you're at least going to apply for it.
Or you're at least going to apply for it. So prior to knocking on doors, we kind of really have to know that whatever direction we're headed and what the project is that we're aiming for. It's kind of a respect thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, because we had to get name out, size of family, income levels, race. There's a bunch of questions on it. It's a HUD form that we utilize for the survey. And when you go up there, you're saying we're city's looking at applying for a road paving project in front of your home, or whatever the project is, so they know why they're giving the information. And to go up there and say they may or may not possibly do water lines, apply for water lines in your house, or they may not respond. I'd be hesitant, but
yeah, it's not a good feeling if we don't follow through after knocking on doors. So I just wanted to put out there, if we head on the direction of knocking on doors, it's got to be, in my opinion, pretty important project.
And every project's got a separate service area. Your project for the drainage or the water line project is just the houses on that street. A drainage project, basically, if it's a retention pond, it's the whole thing, everybody in the basin. If it's just swells, then it's the houses on that street. Water plant projects, everybody on the water system. So you have a different beneficiary pool that you have to determine before you can survey for a project. It's not, you just take one and you can work it for any project.
So if we can't get done or we're not even gonna have the time to get done what the people want it done, how do other places do it with the same notification that we get, that are probably a little bit bigger than us or about our same size? How are they getting into this if we're not able to?
Ones that don't have the data available, because sometimes some cities meet by census, which you don't meet. You don't have for that area. But sometimes they meet by data, so they can do like a park, or they can do something citywide benefit. Or they wait till the fall cycle and try to get whatever. But they usually know this is a project we want to do. Do we have time to get this data together? Or do we need to wait till the next cycle to get the data together? It's not, they're not going, okay, we've got 30 possible projects, we got to survey that, figure out which one we want to do. They kind of have a lot of communities have like a needs list or ranking list of what with their engineers or whoever, that we know we have to have. If we don't get grant funds to do this, we've got to use local funds. So let's try to get a grant. We need this done. So they kind of have a needs list of items they need to have done.
I think through the water and sewer facilities plans, we established, which we just completed within the last year, we established citywide what our important water and sewer projects are. And through the street inventory that was recently completed, we determined citywide some of the more important roads that need to be done. Now it's like the second step, focusing more on certain areas for when these, these types of grants come up. As well. But again, like what Bruce said, is that a lot of the water has already been done in those areas. So
And these are HUD funds, so you you can't get away from the 51% is a threshold. If you don't meet 51%, and there's only other possibilities, urgent need. I've never seen a community get urgent need. So most of them have to go in with meeting the criteria of 51% low to moderate income. So that's it. And if you don't have a project that meets that 51% threshold, it's not a project you can even submit for.
Addresses some key needs as well. You know, we talk about water and sewer, but we also have some stormwater needs and some road paving needs. So we just did water in this area. This area needs to be repaved as well. In certain areas, it needs to address the stormwater and swales and things along those lines. So that it's addressing not only the water lines now, but it's also going to address paving. When we did the project on the other side of town, there was paving addressed in a lot of that project as well. Due to the cost increases and things like that, we couldn't do paving in this one. So it was kind of the natural step for step 2 in this. It's been a discussion for a little bit while the cycle's been wrapping up and dealing with some of the supply chain issues. And again, we've addressed a lot of the LMI. While you look at town in certain areas, or you think that, oh, this would meet it, that would meet it, it really doesn't when you start looking at it, because the way town's laid out and the way we have certain subdivisions laid out and things along those lines, the way the census draws those polygons into triangles, and they're all weird shapes. It's not just a random like square block. It's deceiving, because where areas overlap on each other, it really changes the dollar amount in there and pushes us over that threshold. And the lower the LMI, the higher percentage you're going to have to get it. And not that the drainage project and that road paving project is 100% shovel ready. A lot of that engineering was already done because we did it with the water line aspect of it. So there's engineering cost, and that's going to be minimal compared to what a whole new project will cost. So it gives us a little more latitude to get a little more done within the project. So that's.
Let me ask a question, Madam Mayor. Mr. Fox, do you, for the CDBG process, because I'm pretty ignorant to this and I've learned a lot tonight,
Yes, ma'am.
do you have to be present at the task force meetings?
No, I don't have to be there.
I mean, my biggest problem with this is we obviously have a project that we can probably use to get these, hopefully apply for these funds. I don't think that was really communicated to the 4 individuals who gave up time today. I watched them, they listened, they gave input. And I think it was really important for them to understand that we really only had one project that we could use. And if we could meet with them, independent of you having to take out of your time to get more feedback so we could be better prepared for the fall or for another cycle, I would really like to do that. I didn't even know we had a Citizens Advisory Task Force until a few days ago. And I would like to see us as a community engaging more with them so that we're better prepared to give you 3 or 4 options instead of realistically, Bruce, there's only one, right?
And to be honest with you, there may not be any more after this one, just because of the way the LMI reaches.
Mm-hmm.
It's not at a lack of us not wanting to do it, or the advisory. That's the thing with the advisory committee, and that's what I was trying to explain. There's areas that we know there's needs. Those areas don't fall in this cycle. It's not applicable to this grant. That doesn't mean that it's not eligible for other grants. That doesn't mean it's not eligible, and it's not a good idea to look at funding on additional things. This is a small bucket, and we can only stay within that bucket. There are ways to get out of that bucket, but there's a lot of staff time. There's a lot of time on the grant writer side. There's a lot of hoops that have to be jumped through, that have to be jumped through, and have to be considered to make this even feasible. That's going to take, if there's areas outside of that 51%, say it's a 52 or 53% area, just to get that area done, you're 365 days into it, if not longer, just trying to get that information out there.
And there's a requirement for the program that these steps today are required to be open and no specific project pinpointed. The whole reason for the public hearing and the CATF is to get input for projects. If you come into this meeting and you've already got saying, we're gonna do this project, then they can reject your application, because you're supposed to be open, and that's the whole purpose of the public hearings. And that was what we did tonight, and that's why we got the other, is to say, we've got these categories, this is what you can do under these categories. What kind of recommendation do you have for the board as a CATF? And what kind, as in public, what kind of projects do you see the need for? We're not, tonight, there's no requirement that the city say we're gonna do this exact project. We just wanna make sure that if we wanna be in the right, maybe we wanna do a neighborhood project, doesn't have to be this exact project, and we wanna submit for this deadline, and then you can get with staff and go in more detail at between now and the second public hearing. But there's nothing tonight, they don't allow you to say, we're gonna do this street, this project kind of thing. It's just to get general information.
Yeah,
From the public.
And there is a component that's left from the CDD, the original grant we did over here as well, because we had to omit part of the water line replacement that could be eligible for this as well. We just haven't made it that far. The one area that we looked at was the drainage issue, because that area floods real bad at that intersection, and it's a safety concern. It's something that's been on the radar for a while. But there is that water line that we had to cut out of the original project on 27 that did some lateral tie-ins to the neighborhood as well that could be addressed. So there was a water line component that could be addressed in that LMI area that's still eligible, that I got to look at with the engineers, that they're trying to make sure it still fits in, because there is some commercial properties in there. And it may have to be taken out because we may not get what we need LMI wise, because we're not tying in the houses to the sides like we did original. We had to stop it at the end of that street. So that's still being explored. The area that the gentleman that was sitting next to me discussed, with where he's at for some water line stuff, it's on our radar, because there are some lines in there that are older that need to be replaced. But last we checked, we're not part of the LMI. I need to go back and look, so that data change is pretty regular. But I don't think it's gonna fall back into it. There's been some change in some growth, and we need to look at that. So there is still a water line project that could be available. I just have to get with the engineers to make sure it's even feasible to get it done. I just know where we're at on the stormwater thing, because we had the survey done. We had some discussions on that, and we're looking at that as well.
So, Mayor, if I'm understanding right, I mean, it seems to me we got a carrot hanging in front of us that is ready to be nibbled on, and I don't mind spinning around and seeing if there's a bushel of apples nearby, but if there's not, I'm gonna go for the carrot. We've got a lot of data, and we have an opportunity to bring some funds in to impact an area where people have stood at that podium after some significant rain events and storm events over the last few years, and talked about the conditions in that area and asked us what we're gonna be doing. That area is one of the oldest parts of the city, and was designed before, we took a lot of things into consideration. So I'm in favor of you working with staff and really narrowing down, and if this is gonna be something we're gonna be able to take advantage of, and if it is, I wanna bite the carrot.
What I was gonna ask for is to let us look at the stormwater, see how feasible that one is. Let us look at the water line that we had to cut out of the other project, the one we just completed, and let me explore the other two areas on water lines and see if they meet the LMI. If we have a water line project and that stormwater project with some repaving, and those look like they're good to go for this cycle, bring it back to the commission, let y'all make the advisory board, the commission, make the decision if that's something we want to go with. And I can come back with some data to see where we're at on those other two areas, to see what we have to do to move forward on those as well. If it's something we think we can get done, then maybe we can. If not, then we can put it on for, say, hey, once we complete this cycle, let's address those two areas and see which one we can get done.
I need to ask a question really quick.
Yes, ma'am.
So I know with the public noticing requirements for the second public hearing, just to be prepared, Melissa had asked me for, what the potential project was and the cost. Do we even have time to get the second public notice out if we go with a water line project or something else?
The project and the cost has to be included, and the LMI percentage has to be included in the ad.
So
Ad has to run at least 6 days prior to the meeting.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to figure out time-wise how, if we are going to do a different project, how that would work, and when we would have to have meetings and advertising and know, do we advertise both, all the different projects? Or, I know this is something we can talk about behind the scenes. I just don't want people to think that, we're gonna be able to come to that meeting and really actually pick a different project if we're not gonna meet the requirements on time.
And
For the
all I can say is,
noticing.
I mean, if he's got like a water line area, that's something we can know in the, I mean, we're looking at, I think the meeting's looking at May 3rd or something. I mean, we're looking quick.
Yeah.
So we would have to know our service area change in the next week and try to get out there and get
Yeah.
it surveyed. Like I said, and I'm not pushing you to go this cycle or next. If y'all really want to explore all your possibilities, which we should do, but then you can wait till the next cycle. But if you want to, if you know you need to do the drainage project or whatever, you have a project that the public has commented on that you would like to do, then we'll try to make the May 5th. But if you change the service area, I just can't guarantee something in that quick of a turnaround.
Yeah, that was my point. I don't know if we do something different, I don't know if we can pull off all of this additional discussion for this time.
And that's what the
And I don't
one
want
of the
them to
meeting
think we
points for
can't.
tonight is to discuss. Do you want, do you have something that's readily available to move forward, or do you want to look at some other projects and up the next cycle?
I think if we got something that we can work with, that's within the realm of what we can do, I think that's what we should be looking at. Because I truly don't believe that the committee understood all the parameters that's involved with this in order to go and do something totally different. I really don't.
And we can't, and that's the whole purpose, we can't guide them. I mean, we can't say, you got this, you have to do this, because that's not the whole purpose of this.
No,
Public comment, or the public.
but I
input.
think they need the facts. And that's where I think we dropped the ball.
I'm confused.
Yeah, I don't think they got
I'm
the
totally
facts
confused.
on
I'm trying to
this
figure out
part. I don't.
what project you're talking about, and I'm lost. I'm completely lost. So if I know I'm lost, that committee was lost. 'Cause I'm quite sure they probably had something else in their mind that they was meeting about, but now y'all talking about something else. I'm confused. I'm just being honest with you. I think I'm pretty much an intelligent young man to understand stuff, but I'm lost.
Yeah.
So now you're talking about doing you asked the advisory committee tonight to do a project? Or you actually suggest what they should do?
A suggestion of what projects they think the community has needs for.
And then what did they say?
They said a neighborhood project to possibly do, they really didn't pinpoint, their motion was a neighborhood project, but did not pinpoint. They discussed water lines and drainage, but they could not come to an agreement, and their agreement together was to look at doing a neighborhood category.
They were pretty clear on water lines. I mean, at least that's what I got. Two of them said, I don't know if Madam Mayor took something different away from it, but that seemed to be what they wanted to focus on. Did I misunderstand that?
No, I agree, but I just am trying to clarify to help the situation. Again, like when the packets were going out to y'all and them, I had the same, like, can we give them a list of projects specifically, in the CDBG, the way it works, the requirements, we can't. Like, some of the information you're saying, like, they should have had, we could possibly, if we give them too much information,
It can be a rejection issue.
it can be a rejection issue. So it's not that we don't want to and we don't want to have transparency and full disclosure. It's just the way the grant works.
They had the same power or presentation that I gave you with the category is what they had. That's all we're allowed to do. The DEO will literally reject an application if they can, without getting the proper public comment and directing a project until you get your public comment and your CATF input.
And I couldn't guide them one way or another sitting up there. I had to be pretty vague on the ideas of some of the projects, like the stormwater drainage, which falls in category 3. The water lines also fall in category 3. The only water line project I can think of that will fall into this is the part of the last grant cycle we did that we had to omit due to funding.
And that you talking about the area, these new streets, I just don't know. 12th and all in that area. That's the area you're talking about?
Well, the area we just did, 9th Street,
9th Street.
4th, and all that in the side, and then there was a spot we took off on 27 and a couple of the side roads that we didn't have the funding for, so we took that part of the grant out. That part was part of the LMI. We didn't have the funding for it, so that part's already shovel ready. We just have to see if it meets the LMI, because it doesn't go down all those streets. It's only in a small area. So I have to get the engineers to look at that real quick to see if it's still LMI eligible. It may not be, because there's some commercial property on there that's gonna kick the LMI up. So that's really the last area of LMI that I know of that would be eligible for water line. without doing an extensive survey at this point.
Yeah, the neighborhood category has to have a residential benefit. If it's gonna just, the project is just going to benefit commercial, then it doesn't qualify for the neighborhood category.
There's a lot of residential that falls in there, but there is a small portion of commercial that falls in between the residential, and that's what I gotta double check with the engineers on. While as a whole project, it met the requirements, but because it's just a piece of a project now, it may not. So,
And to check that and get everything done in time to notify, like you'd have to check that, come back to y'all, see, do you want to do that project or not? And then get it notified in time for second public hearing to get everything done in time to submit, then we really need to bump that to the fall. If we're.
Yeah, you gotta have the project in there.
It's too tight.
And that's why I just want to present to you, I want to present to you your options. I'm not, like I said, I'm not directing you one way or the other, project one way or the other. I just didn't want you to, I didn't want a cycle to be out there and the city not be aware of it.
So if we move on the other project, are we able to go back with the task force and at least inform them as to why we're moving this direction or why we're looking at this without having an issue with compliance or anything?
There's no requirement you have a task force meeting, and there's no requirement you have multiple. You can do whatever, you can have multiple, as long as you advertise for your task. That's one of the only requirements for the CATF, is you have to advertise, I believe, 5 days or 6 days in advance to the meeting. But they can re-meet. I mean, they can meet again. It's not a requirement that they can.
I think I'm with Commissioner Williams. I'm more confused now than before.
Yeah, and that's the way this program, I guess it keeps us in business, is that you've got these steps that you have to follow. You can't lead any of the public or the CATF to a certain project. You've got to give them the options, and then from there.
But you can't give them like the options.
You give them.
You can't tell them. You can't give them the options, but you can like give them options.
You got to give the category requirements are specified what you've got to provide in the public hearing in the CATF.
I picked letter D on this one. All the above.
I've been doing this 30 years, and I think I'm still getting the
one you got.
So what did the task force say they wanted to do?
Option 3.
Option 3.
Option 3, water line was brought up, and we suggested the drainage because that was just mentioned the drainage or street paving in that area. So those were the two options that were discussed, and they voted on option 3, which is the neighborhood revitalization.
And so now what community are you speaking of?
We can't specifically say what community because we have to see if it meets the LMI.
Well, the LMI
that's the component of this, is it has to meet that LMI. That LMI is defined by the census. And that LMI has to be below 51%. So you can't just say we're gonna pinpoint a project in Southside. Let's just say that's what we're gonna do. If it doesn't meet the LMI, that project doesn't matter for CDBG.
And just to specify again, LMI stands for low to moderate income.
So I mean, you don't have those type of neighborhood targets that you know that we have that meet the LMI.
Well, the thing is, though, is the census changes. So as the census changes, those LMI target groups change. So as they do their surveys, that number changes.
And it sounds like we're running out of LMI communities that.
Right, because it's not just a specific neighborhood. It's not just, say, Southside. It's not just Bailey Estates. It is a group of census tract that's drawn, and they say it's in this polygon, if you will, and if everything falls in that area based off of the median income that was recorded during the census, meets this percentage, and it's under 51%, it's eligible for that. So it's not, in that neighborhood, you could have Southside, you could have the Woods, and then you could have a whole bunch of commercial in there. It's just how the census tracts are drawn. We don't have any control over that. That's how they set up their census tracts.
And if it's a smaller project, like 1 or 2 streets, you can't use census tract, or even a smaller, like just a couple, like 4 square blocks, because the census tract is larger than that area. So you have to do a door-to-door survey to document that you're meeting the low to moderate income, at least 51% low to moderate income benefit of people.
So if you go out, say you want, there's 2 census tracts that have low to moderate income, but they're not working because all the other neighborhoods that have higher income, which is driving it up. So then what you would do is that's when you would do the survey and you just pick your own area that you're pretty sure makes it, and that's when you would do the survey, but it's very time intensive and you sometimes when you do it, you're not even sure if you're going to meet it because you have to do the survey to see. So sometimes you're like, well, I'm spending all this time and I hope we meet it, you know.
Yeah, we may get the survey done and say this neighborhood doesn't meet, or this project doesn't meet the low to moderate income benefit, and that happens a lot. A lot of cities that met 15 years ago, low to moderate income based on census, no longer meet, and you have to do a citywide survey, and they may still no longer meet as 51% low to moderate income. So every project has a separate service area. Every project has its own benefits, people benefiting. And then based on that project, you do a door-to-door survey and see if that area even meets the criteria to apply for this grant. I know it's confusing, but that's how it breaks out.
Some people don't even do the CDBG because of the difficulty involved.
And I keep hearing might. That ain't positive.
Not at all.
But without the data or without the survey, I can't tell you this area meets. There's no way to know until we know what project they're looking at doing and what the area is, and then go knock on doors and then get the income levels, and then we can find, that's how we determine if it's a project that's even you can apply for.
And it's not like you just ask one question when you knock on that door. So, I mean, there's a lot to it. Which is
the reason we're talking the drainage, for instance, and paving in this area is we already have the data that says this meets the LMI in that area.
So what I'm hearing you saying right now is, you got a target.
We have a target because we know it'll meet it.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yes, sir.
We've got an area that was done in your last cycle, that the surveys are good for 5 years, and they met the 51% low to moderate income. That's just one possible, and I gotta keep saying this because it could reject them if we don't. That's just one possible project. It cannot come in here and say, you've gotta do this project or do nothing. We can't tell you that. Based on the rule of the program, we can't tell you that. And we have no way to know what other projects meet that 51% without doing a door-to-door survey. All I can tell you is you did a previous project, that area did the door-to-door survey, it met. Now, if you want to do more there, we know it qualifies. If you want to do it somewhere else, we would need to go through the process to qualify that area income-wise, that make sure they meet the 51% low to moderate income.
And we don't have to do anything. This is just, we're bringing it forward.
I get that it's a confusing process that makes government look really bad. But, you know, I also understand we're just trying to check the boxes so we can have an application that'll be accepted and seriously considered. And going through the process in the background, staff knew there was an area, and we're just trying to make sure that we checked all the boxes before it's like, okay, we can do anything, but anything is a longer path that's unknown, or we can take advantage of the data that's already been gathered and all the resources that have gone into that and submit this grant and see what happens.
That's good.
So, I mean, we don't have a ton of staff. We don't have a city planner on staff. Thank you, Ashley. And, you know, we're using you as resources, and these are hard grants, and we've successfully gotten them, implemented them, and benefited citizens. And so I'm like, I mean, sure, I'll consider another CBG grant, but it means we're probably not going to submit a successful grant now, and then we're just dealing with the unknown someday.
And I'm not trying to pinpoint you, and there's no requirement to pinpoint you to a project, and I just want to know how the board wants us to proceed. I don't want to.
I mean, I'd love for you to work with staff and put together a successful grant that meets this application deadline And I don't know what that's gonna turn out to be, and that's just me speaking right now, but if the other commissioners are in the same, I'm ready to.
But I am gonna go back just because I know that Bruce and I are gonna be the ones talking to Melissa. and Angela is the one who has to talk to the newspaper to get the second public hearing noticed. I really don't know how if we go a different, and I'm not trying to push anyone a certain way, but we would probably, it'd behoove us that if we pick a different project to do the fall cycle, because I don't think there's enough time unless y'all want to have special meetings back to back to back to be able to do all this.
And you're gonna have
a different project.
I don't know that we would even get another project together by the fall cycle.
Yeah.
You gotta have an engineer's cost estimate with the application. We
Yeah.
can do
Yeah,
the
that's
survey,
true.
get the engineer's cost estimate, and get the data together for the ad for the second public hearing.
Right, yeah.
So what do we need, a motion?
We've already had to supply what we think might happen.
So,
Right.
So, okay. So if we waited till the fall, that means you can do more neighborhoods possible?
They don't know that.
I don't know that we
They
can
don't
get a
know
different
that.
project together even in the fall, with the amount of surveying and things along those lines that need to be done. We've had these discussions internally. We were trying to look at some different areas to start looking at some of the LMI data, and this cycle opened. This was kind of sitting on the burner for fall, the stormwater, because we knew it met that area, and that area is good for 5 years, and we got about a year and a half left on it. And we have to go through cost analysis, we have to get with the engineers, there's a lot of process that goes with this. If you direct us to look at the fall, we can start looking and move forward, but I can't guarantee that I can bring a different project back by the fall, depending on where they open it, because the fall for them could be, we could get notice after this one closes, hey, it's open in August. And we may be in the same boat we're in now. So we may not even make the 23-24, we may be looking at the 24-25.
So
Do you just need consensus or a resolution on something?
Consensus to do what?
Just,
To-
yeah, just
I
a
think-
direction.
To move forward with the grant for potentially a neighborhood project that meets the LMI that right now is targeted for water, roads, or drainage. That's what you're asking? Yeah.
They already had the data for that one, so they could work on it. But to get something different, they gotta go out and do these, a lot of other things, and still may not get it, because they don't know what the hell am I gonna be.
And we may not get this, I mean, they're competitive, so I can't guarantee you, and if you go with this project, I gotta throw another wrench in there. I always gotta throw a wrench in there. Even if you go for this project, it's competitive. I can't guarantee either way it's funded. It's just, this is a project that has a possibility of moving forward by the short deadline date.
Okay. So my understanding, y'all didn't discuss this project with the advisory committee. Y'all pretty much just talked to them and
We
told
gave
them
them-
to decide
We
what they.
gave them the categories, we got their comments, and then, Mr. Gillingham did a he discussed what this project is with them, but we can't go into a bunch of detail, because we can just give them a quick outline.
They brought up the water line project. We explained that what we'd have to do, that we believe we've already met the 2 to 3 census tracts with the LMI, that staff identified an area for stormwater and some paving. And that's pretty much, because I can't go into detail, I can't steer them in any direction as staff on the board. I just have to give them a basic overview of what we were thinking. We heard what they were thinking. They went with neighborhood revitalization, which was item 3, and that's where we're at right now.
I'm good with, I mean, I would say that I'm probably leaning toward being good with moving forward with this. However, with the caveat that we give the task force an option to come in and meet with us, and so we can explain our stance on it. That way, I hate for people to come in, waste their time, and then wonder why.
We can meet with them again on the second public hearing. If they say no, they don't like the project, then when we present it to you, we can tell you, and whichever project it ends up being, we can tell you, yes, they were for it or no, they weren't. We just hold it prior, like we did tonight, hold it prior to your meeting.
And with us having the advisory board back together, even with this project going, we can start identifying future needs in the CDBG and start looking at areas and start identifying these projects. So while this project's going on, if we go that way, then we can start getting the list together and come back and talk.
I would appreciate that approach, because I really feel like they came here, they gave their input, and it ended up being form over function. I mean, I don't mean to be rude about it, but they said they wanted waterline projects.
But it's not form over function with the fact that there's a component of the 51%.
I get that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with them that we need to identify some waterline stuff. We all agree with that. There's a lot of areas we've done waterline projects in the last several years. I just don't know what fits in that box right now. We don't have that data available. And it's something we need to explore and look at, but I don't know that we can get it done now. I know we can't get it done for this cycle, other than that area down 27 and some of that other area. And I'm reluctant to say that we can get it done. I think it's something I can explore as far as a water line, if that's something that the commission really wants to hammer on and really make it the main focus. I can address that with Mid-Tower to see where it falls. But the stormwater in that area is something that's needed to be addressed for a long time as well.
I don't disagree with you. I understand your perspective. I just think that it's incumbent upon us to respect the fact that these guys need to have input, and I think we need to involve them more, if we could, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think moving forward, regardless of which direction we go, we need to get that committee together and let's get several things identified for future planning to get these things laid out so we can look at them.
And we are at a place too, like, since that we are at a place we'll have to do surveys and target an area, because Mid-Tower is going to come back and say, well, where can we do it at? Because we've already exhausted projects in all these areas. So again, we just have the time thing, and staff time and the expense, because we're not going to use y'all until, like, it's the proper time to use y'all. So if we're telling all this stuff up ahead of time, which of course we can do, but Mid-Tower just can't identify things without knowing the area, and we don't know the area since we've exhausted projects. So there's a lot more to it time-wise, which is why Bruce mentioned, fall, we may not even be able to do it. So it's going to, just to set expectations, it will take a while to identify this.
And just so you, and I don't usually pull my phone out during a meeting, so just, I was just looking at the dates. So today's the 13th, we would need to have the ad to the paper around the 25th, 26th, 24th. Okay. So we would need to know within less than, or a week from tomorrow, our service area, the cost estimate to do another project, to do anything that we don't already have a survey for, and our cost estimate. So either you've got to look at a project that the engineer knows that he can get a cost estimate and that we know meets, or look at the next cycle, and that's what it comes down to.
I'm for Commissioner Grunder's idea. Let's move forward with this, and let's involve the Citizens Advisory Committee and let them know why we've narrowed it down to this. And let's get it noticed, and if it's going to qualify, let's move forward with it.
You're saying move forward with this. Now, what is this?
An application to use up to $700,000 in an area that has the qualifies for income with the data we have, that would be a neighborhood project involving water, drainage, and paving, scope to be determined by the budget that this engineer puts in together on how to use that $700,000.
Could you say water, sewage, or paving?
Yes.
We could do that.
And stormwater.
Water, stormwater, or paving.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, if it's seconded.
I'll second it.
And if it answers Commissioner Williams' question.
No, I sure don't, but.
Okay.
I sure don't.
Mr. Williams, you would like for me to schedule to come back?
Please do,
and
because
talk to you?
and that committee was confused.
Yeah.
I'm
think
quite sure
so.
they was confused.
I think so,
And I don't
too.
like that. I just don't like it.
That's why I want that caveat in
Yeah,
there,
I just,
whatever
and
motion we do make for them.
you
to
know,
use it.
I don't lead people into a situation where they're blind. I'm a firm believer in not doing that. I know you said you couldn't tell them the project, but I think they should have been more aware what this was all about, because it just.
Or if you just want to sit in on the next CATF meeting with us, maybe that'll help. Whichever you want, just let me know. Let me know what you want me to do.
Yeah.
But I do think that's where the problem is. I think it's a communication
Yeah,
breakdown
yeah,
here.
that's-
Because I don't think they had, well, the information that we've gotten tonight, I don't think they got that at their meeting.
Sounds like you're not allowed to give it.
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
you can.
You're not allowed to
Sounds
give
like
it to them.
We cannot lead.
They put in for this grant,
We're
but
not
we're not
al-
gonna tell you why or how.
We're not allowed, we can just give you the parameters of the grant and the categories. We're not allowed, and give you possible, we're not allowed to lead any board. And that's the requirement of the program, the public input part of the application. We cannot lead to what project to do. We can just give you the parameters of what the grant allows. We can't say, hey, this is the only project you got to do this. If we did that, they would reject it, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, I'm just.
I think we got a motion and a second.
Oh, we got a motion in a second? All right, all those in favor respond with aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
Aye, for the lack of knowledge. I just don't know. I just don't know. I just can't
Mr.
vote on
Williams,
myself.
like I said, if you want me to meet, or if you want to meet at the CATF with us, you're welcome,
Okay.
of course.
All right,
Any more
so,
questions for me?
not right
Sorry I
now.
made it so muddy. I just had, we got.
Yeah,
we have to go through-
you muddied it up.
It was not my intent. I'm sorry.
Okay, next item is number 4. Discuss, consider, and act on site plan for Palms Medical located at 16916 Northwest US Highway 441.
Hello again, Commissioners. So Palms Medical Site Plan, this is at the Old Fellowship Church off of 441, and it's turning into Palms Medical Group. So they're doing a whole bunch of upgrades for the access road, parking, landscaping, drainage, a whole bunch of changes to the inside of the building and whatnot.
Oh, my goodness, if you do.
And their proposed site plan meets city regulations, so we are recommending approval. We've got their engineer, Mitchell Mason from CHW, here tonight if you have any technical questions. So other than that, here is just a quick slide of one of the pages from it that you can kind of see the whole site on. So he's here if you have any questions.
That's a beautiful building they've got designed here.
Mayor?
Yes, you may.
I had a question for you. I think it's a really nice design layout. I'm all for this. My question is, and this is kind of a thing, with those parking lots, are they gonna be like brightly lit at night, 7 days a week? Or, I mean, how, is there, I know there's probably a lighting plan in your thoughts, but, you know, if they're not used 24/7, do they need to be lit brightly 24/7 is my question. Because as we come and go from our community and as we build out along 441, it has an impact to the field. So I'm just asking that question.
Yeah, and so we do have a lighting plan in place in conformance with the city's lighting standards. As far as the duration of the time during which those are on, I'm not totally sure. There are some areas I imagine they would want to be lit during all hours. For example, there's an emergency drop-off at the southeast of the building.
Yeah, and,
Areas like that.
signs to access that and the pathway, I mean, I get that, but I guess, you know, our community has really vague lighting standards. So I'm just, anything a developer can do to be a little more cooperative, you know, I always think is nice. And even, you know, the new Tractor Supply, you know, doesn't have an overglow that you see from, you know, miles away, which is nice.
I'd absolutely be happy to have that discussion with the applicant. with the
Okay,
developer.
thanks. And thank you for doing this in our community with your client.
That's definitely a plus for us. Okay, you got a question?
Palm Medical, is that the same group that's in the
Yeah.
little yellow building out here now?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, sir.
That's Palm Medical.
Okay. You're just going bigger. Gotcha.
Much bigger.
That's right. This will be effectively a headquarters, so office space and clinic as well.
Okay, in clinics, okay, great.
Your headquarters was out there on 236?
Yes, that's their office
And
space
this,
right now.
yeah, and it's moving, okay. So all of you be in one place now?
I believe so, yeah.
Very good. Any other question, commissioners?
May I ask a question, please, Madam Mayor? The gym that's behind the main building, what's the plan for that building?
I know there was some discussion with the city earlier about asking if they could use it for, like youth camp sports. I did bring that up with the developer and they weren't necessarily considering that at the time. I think they have plans to use it for large assemblies for the whole Palms Medical Group.
Okay.
If they need to have trainings and such.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if they might be open to that discussion down the line.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else with here? Any questions from the audience? Okay.
You want a motion?
Yep.
I make a motion, we approve the site plan as presented by Palms Medical Group with some consideration for the lighting, but, you know, you'll work that out.
You work that out for you.
Second.
All right, this has been properly moved in second, that the site plan for Palms Medical Group be approved. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right, site plan approved.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I would just like to thank Christy and Ashley for giving me 11 by 17s. I really appreciate it
Yes,
very
that
much.
was
Ditto.
nice. That was
Yes,
nice.
it is so
Yes,
much
it
nicer for drawings we can actually read. Thank you.
Good job. All right, item number 5, discuss, consider, and act on site plan for People's Choice Storage located at 26020 West US Highway 27.
Commission, this is the People's Choice Storage Site Plan. It's the one that you recently approved a conditional use permit on September 8th, 2022. They are expanding the facility to add an additional 5 buildings totaling 79,750 square feet. They do meet all city requirements for everything, loading, parking, all the rest. So staff is recommending approval. I just want to point out that in the motion that was made for the conditional use permit, they were directed to bring forward a lighting plan that is dark sky, meets the requirements for a dark sky, that a dark sky ordinance would have, because we do not have that in our regulations. So the light plan they brought forward does meet our city regulations. Staff still needs to send the lighting plan to a photometric engineer on our end who can verify whether it's dark sky, would meet dark sky requirements or not. Which dark sky means that it's fully shielded and emits no light on surrounding properties, just to let you know. So for the site plan requirements, staff is recommending approval because they do meet that. But I just want you to know that staff is following through with the other part of the conditional use permit on the lighting, and that will be handled. And the lighting plan can be approved and will be approved after we're sure they meet all requirements.
Okay. Question, comments, commissioners?
No, I mean, I understand it's a space requirement. I mean, the dumpster's in the back in a corner.
Yeah.
And having used storage facilities, I just know that people tend to leave their trash at the end of the row on their way out, which is the opposite direction of where the dumpster's gonna be located. So hopefully there won't be a trash issue, but that's to be worked out with the operators, and that was my only comment on that. And the dark sky, we don't have a city ordinance on that, and the whole idea there, I think in our motion, was that that's near, you know, the river area, it's near a number of homes that are on larger lots and what have you, and the storage facilities across the street are pretty glowing, and the idea is that this one not be that way. So, appreciate the investment in the community.
Anything else here? Anything in the audience?
Madam Mayor, could you take a quick comment from myself, attorney for the applicant? Thank you, Madam Mayor. My name is Byron Flagg. I'm a land use and environmental attorney in Gainesville with the law firm Gray Robinson. And I represent the applicant. They're here tonight also with their construction engineer and their engineer. Thank you very much, city attorney and city manager, for bringing that out. We'd just like to point out that the plan does meet all the city requirements, city regulations, absolutely understand the concern about lighting. There was a photometric lighting plan submitted last year as part of the original conditional use permit that was submitted in May. And it was designed around the planned expansion that we're asking for tonight. So that should be part of the city's files. But we're happy to continue to work with the city to make sure that the photometric plan that actually gets installed is sensitive and representative of the commission's intent, if it does choose to improve. I did take a quick look at your land use code with regards to your lighting conditions tonight before I got here, just to see what they said. And it clearly, I should point out that there is in your land use code, you have a highway enhancement zone overlay district that runs along your highways. And that overlay zone expands 300 feet on either side of a right-of-way of a highway. And within that overlay, that highway enhancement overlay zone, there are specific lighting requirements. And so our photometric lighting plan should have, and I believe took that into consideration, but basically what that land use code section is saying is make sure the lighting is bright enough to be safe for pedestrians that are using the sidewalks and also for motorists, because you want to make sure there's sufficient lighting for entering and coming and going along that highway. But those lighting requirements would apply within that 300 feet just off the right-of-way, which encompasses the front part of the applicant's property, where it abuts Highway 27. But then other than that, where these newer buildings are going to be placed, the photometric plan that was previously submitted incorporates lighting with those buildings. And we do need to make sure that there's sufficient lighting for security purposes on the property. But again, we'll obviously happy to continue to work with city staff to make sure the lighting plan comports with everyone's concerns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that, working with staff, because that's really the intention. We just, like I said, don't want it looking like across the street. But we also wouldn't have put it in the motion if the representative at the last meeting hadn't looked at us and said we'd be willing to do that. And they did.
And Madam Mayor, if I can respond to the commissioner's comment. Okay. I totally agree and understand that. I looked at the resolution that was actually adopted, and I see that there's comment in the minutes from that previous meeting where it was approved, but I don't see in the resolution that was actually adopted the written language requiring any kind of special lighting plan different than what the code says. So it doesn't look like it's actually in the resolution, but we're not in disagreement that if it was actually discussed and voiced and can be found in the oral recording of the minutes, that was the intent of the commission.
Yeah, it was part of the motion, so the city attorney might want to comment on this, but usually when it's part of the motion, it's the understanding that it's approved with that condition. So
generally speaking, that is the case. I will say it does sound like we sort of have an agreement here, so hopefully we won't have any butting of heads where we need to really stick to the letters and things. I mean, the attorneys can talk and do all kinds of fun, really expensive stuff, but it sounds like we're really in agreement here, so hopefully that it won't become a problem.
Nothing else from the applicant. Thanks very much. Good to see you all tonight. Hopefully that's easier and simpler than the community development block grants.
All right. right, any more questions here, commissioners? Audience questions? Okay,
I make a motion to approve the plan. Site plan.
I'll second that.
okay. It's been properly moved and seconded that the site plan for People's Choice Storage be approved. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. Approval, 5-0. Item number 6, discuss, consider, and act on ordinance 2023-3, use of golf carts on designated streets.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
So this ordinance comes about just due to the recent golf cart traffic around town. It's been going on for a while. There's quite a bit of it. It's going, I don't want to say unregulated, but it's been a little bit of a nuisance that PD's been having to deal with, and we felt like it needed to be addressed. We went around and looked at similar communities to our size. There's a golf cart ordinance in Newberry that we looked at pretty heavily. This is really close to an ordinance that they have in place. And basically what this does is it regulates the use of golf carts on city streets that have a designated mile per hour of 30 miles an hour or less. It designates certain streets. This does not give any rights to the right-of-way to allow golf carts on county right-of-way, state right-of-ways, state roads, county roads, or anything along those lines, just within our city roads. In the ordinance, it addresses, oops, put my glasses down, sorry. It addresses the areas in town where they can be driven, what is required of the golf carts, if it's gonna be driven 30 minutes before sunset or after dark, 30 minutes after dark, it's gotta have headlights, turn signals, brake lights, a windshield. It goes into specific requirements. This does not address ATVs or UTVs. So this is specifically for golf carts. It's spelled out in your ordinance as well. And there is a section under designation in section C that the city commission may impose an administrative fee associated with the establishment of street-approved golf cart use, if that's something in the direction the commission would like to go. It also addresses 30 miles per hour. It goes into designated hours which golf carts can be operated under which conditions, if they do have windshields, brake lights, so forth and so on. And then it goes into, under section F, what roads are prohibited in the city. Some of our city roads, for instance, we specifically addressed 174th Avenue. That's a long straight road. It's got a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit on it. We don't want to see golf carts on that road. We addressed 190th Avenue up behind Bailey Estates out where Mr. Withy lives, in that general area out by Underwood. That's a long straight road with 45 miles an hour as well. We addressed that area. We also went into and addressed 27 Post Springs Road or 182nd Avenue, Main Street 441, and the 202 Street as well. So basically just accord downtown streets, and it has to meet the mile per hour requirement. There's also an age restriction in there. You have to be 15 years or older, and there's additional caveats in there as well. Any questions?
Got a question, Commissioner?
So this means they can't drive the car on the highway. So that means they can drive it along the easement?
No, sir. It specifically addresses the easements in the ordinance. So no right-of-ways or any areas along those lines. If the road is a county road, state road, or one of the roads mentioned in the ordinance, they cannot be on the easement. And it does not give them the right to cross any state road, county road, or anything along those lines. It's also specifically spelled out in the ordinance as well. Not saying they're not going to do it, but it specifically states in here that it is not an allowable use.
Yeah.
And this also holds them to, this does not preclude them from normal traffic laws as well under 316. And it's stated in the ordinance as well. Chief Shepherd has reviewed the ordinance and was good with the ordinance.
Everything was good with it.
So if this doesn't address the utility vehicles or like ATVs, what tool do you have to address that? Or what benefit does this give us other than some guidelines for the golf carts? I mean,
The state legislature is right now in the process of addressing UTVs, and they're actually making those things more friendly for them for uses of it. But UTVs are technically, they're illegal to drive right now, and our officers have made some encounters with folks and have cited in those offenses. Just like any traffic laws, there's a ton of things for us to enforce though. So the legislator is reviewing that currently, so that may change. And then ATVs, there's a caveat for, with ATVs, there are certain roadways they can be on if they are, I'm just trying to recollect here a little bit, 30 miles an hour or something like that, unpaved areas, stuff like that. ATVs, that was something, amendment that they did a few years back for ATVs.
and then what about, the city has some carts that we use for maintenance and things in the downtown area and what have you. How does our use comply, or are we exempt because we're the city? I mean,
There's a
what-
way to exempt those that we go through a registration, and they gotta be stickered, and there's a certain criteria they gotta go through for maintenance uses. And that's where those come into play.
Do that?
Yes.
All right.
Madam Mayor, if I may. Bruce, as you're aware, I found out about this ordinance on Facebook. And I think you're probably pretty clear that I wasn't really happy that I hadn't heard a word about this until somebody mentioned it on Facebook. I had no idea this was a huge issue. Nobody had said a word. And we've got an ordinance prepared and ready on our first public conversation about this. And we had a solar power plant come in for a year, and we couldn't put an ordinance together to put any kind of meaningful vegetative buffer or anything for those folks. If I had known my job a little better back then, I would have pushed for it back then, and I wish I had. But this has nothing to do with that, but we've got an ordinance already ready. So since I found out this was coming, I did a little research. If we had a Rails to Trails ever come through here, maybe, people have talked about it a lot, would that be an appropriate throughway for a golf cart to go, so they could get into town, but maybe not be on the street? Would that be appropriate or no?
I don't know. I didn't actually research rails to trails because we don't have a rails to
Yeah,
trails system
but there's a
through
lot
here,
of people coming in on the railroad tracks.
Right,
So,
which is technically trespassing. They shouldn't be on those roads anyhow. It's CSX property.
I mean, from my conversations with law enforcement folks here, we need to make sure we're giving them real specific guidance because there's an issue. They need to know what to do. I appreciate that entirely. Who knew that people were dropping off their kids at High Springs Community School on golf carts? 14 years I was dropping off there. Never saw it. Never saw it once. I mean, if that's an efficient way to do it, and that's what parents are doing, but this is all very new. I never knew golf carts were so prevalent.
It's really become a very common occurrence in town. And it's constantly, they're constantly out there. There's golf carts everywhere. You go to a kid's soccer practice or a baseball practice right now, and there's probably just as many golf carts at the fields as there are cars. And a lot of people are utilizing this form of transportation at this point.
Well, I've read through the state statute, and certainly we can't, it's legal within the state statute guidelines. I've looked at it, 30 miles an hour or less. I have a couple of requests if the commission would consider it, though. We've got in here, I know the state statute says 14, and we've got 15. I have a 15-year-old. And she's been driving for 3 months, and she's an amazing driver. I told Ashley this. She's very, very, very careful, very, very mature until she gets on a golf cart. And then she doesn't have the common sense God gave a goat. So if we could instead have on there that the person had to have a valid driver's license, we could just bump it to 16. Then they would have had a full year of driving experience, maybe a little on their own. I'd feel a little bit better about that. I don't know if the commission agrees or not, but I wouldn't want my 15-year-old driving a golf cart on a road. And in terms of the headlights, dawn, dusk, and all that kind of stuff, I think that might be a little bit too gray for law enforcement if they come in contact with somebody. Is it possible to just require them to have headlights so that there's no I don't have a golf cart, so I don't know if they have them routinely or not, but is it possible to require them to have brake lights and a windshield and headlights, because they're gonna be on a road? I mean, what if it's raining? Then do you have gray area where they should have headlights or not, you know? Is that something that we could do? Is that legal?
If I can jump in here just briefly, the Florida statute is very restrictive regarding what municipalities can do to be more restrictive than the statute. The only thing that you're allowed to restrict more than the statute restricts as a municipality is operation by unlicensed drivers, and that's in section 8A. So to the extent that you are prohibiting golf carts from operating on streets based on lack of equipment, which isn't required by the statute, you're not permitted to do that because that is reserved to the state in the statute. All you're allowed to be more restrictive on is unlicensed drivers operation. Now, something that other municipalities have done, for instance, Williston, another one of our cities, is passing a golf cart ordinance now, and they have sort of creatively come up with the option of requiring a parking permit for golf carts, a permitting process for parking. You can't require it for operation, but for parking you can, and then you can go ahead and inspect these vehicles a little bit more closely if that's something that you're looking toward or for is slightly more inspection. And so you wouldn't be able to get a parking permit, you wouldn't be able to park on public property in your golf cart unless you had this application. Now, I know it's very limited use. Williston recognizes that as well, but I did want to give you the option because it is something that other communities are doing.
And that would hamstring staff to be responsible for doing that too, and I'm not sure we want to do that. We don't have the bandwidth for that. I just want to make sure that we're being, safe. If folks want to go around on a golf cart, more power to them. I know that Newberry's ordinance basically quarters up the city, where you got 26 and you got 2741, and people are required to stay in their quadrants. So they're not permitted to cross 2741, they're not permitted to cross 26. And we can do that same thing here as well with 441 and 2741, because I would hate to see somebody crossing 441 in a golf cart. That would be terrifying. And we legally can do that?
Yes, the way that the statute is written and the way the state law is that even if you wanted to, you could not permit golf carts to transverse roads that you as a city don't own and operate. So these highways owned by the Department of Transportation, you're not permitted to allow golf carts to traverse them anyway without a FDOT permission, which is notoriously difficult to obtain. The other thing to keep in mind is that the process for designating roads for golf cart use is that you have to designate the road and then a sign has to go up, and until the sign goes up, no golf cart can be on that road. If a golf cart is on a road that does not have this sign, that is an improper operation of a golf cart.
How many of those are we going to have to get? Well, maybe we do need to get a parking permit so we can pay for the signs. So long as we're, I think that if you have it sectioned off by, major roadways, that may encourage more community, traversing within their quadrant. And I think that'd probably be good, for neighborhoods. South side, you've got all those little side streets. So long as they're off 174th, I'm good, but, I would really like for it to be a valid driver's license if the commission would consider that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So if someone was driving one without a valid, and the officer pull them over, they're gonna be able to write them a ticket? So now, what's considered as a golf cart? So some of them things they be riding around town on with the jacked all up wheels, that's a recreational vehicle? What you call those? That's UTV. So a golf cart is actually a golf cart. Okay. And most of them are electric, they're not gas, are they?
There's some gas golf carts.
So and even with the, let's say 20 miles per hour, so if they had one souped all up and they ran 35, they ticket. Quite interesting.
I've got a question for you, whether or not this is legal. Is it possible to require all passengers to be seated? You know, because you're thinking kids, 16, 17-year-olds. Okay. Okay.
4 seats, you can only put 4 people. You can't cram 6.
I'm just seeing, you know, some kid hanging on the back having a good time and, you know, right. So long as we can require that they're seated, it's just a safety thing for me.
So in other words then, if dad and mom riding and mom got baby in lap, seat can't, that's illegal.
The other day, one went by my house. The mom and the dad was sitting on the front, and the little boy was on the back. Just like you said, hanging on the rail, hanging out the side.
So in section D of your ordinance, subsection 5, any golf cart operating pursuant to this section shall be occupied by no more passengers than there is reasonable space for such passenger to sit or on a seat or seats in the golf cart.
Let's say they need
I just
to
want
be
to clarify,
seated.
when we talk about ticketing people, we're not talking about citing them criminally, are we? Are we gonna civilly, correct? I don't know, my 8-year-old's pretty responsible on my golf cart. Just saying, she wheel that thing around pretty good now.
Yeah.
Very responsible. She doesn't even go to full speed, 19 miles an hour. She stays at 18.
And so if somebody was cited civilly for this, what's the penalty? I mean, they get a ticket, but like, do we have to set a fee or a fine, or how's that done? I mean, what is that?
But I think what we lean on is state statute for the violation, and then those are set fines.
Okay.
And that'd be through the county courts.
Chief, if you could clarify for me, so if they're going too fast, that would be considered a moving violation? Okay, and those fees are already set, so there's nothing we would have to give any guidance on?
There's
Okay,
nothing there.
thank you.
Yeah, I agree with the age limit. 'Cause a few weeks ago, some kids, a couple of boys out there where we stay at, was in the, where the lift station is. I literally had to go out there and pick it up and try to push it out of there. Yeah, they are. Yeah, that's right, Angela. It's getting that time, ain't it? Yes, it is.
Any more questions here? Do we have any questions from the audience? Do you need?
I come to enough of these, so I feel like I can talk about something like really important, like golf carts. So you're talking about me with all of these things. We have the golf cart. I pick my kids up from school in the golf cart along with my neighbors. My son shows a pig at High Springs Community School, and we go take care of the pig on the golf cart, and we cross 236, and we have never had an issue. We, I feel like, are talking about something here that we already have laws in place for. We have our police department. They are extremely efficient and very good at what they do. When you're talking about golf carts specifically, they're not going 50 miles an hour. Like, this is not a thing. So we're spending a lot of time talking about something and implementing extra rules for something that is really not an issue right now. You know, we have people that come up to the school with their kids, and they pick up their kids, and it's fun to kind of talk and, you know, fellowship with those other parents, you know, while we're walking, or our kids are walking and we're driving the golf carts. And it's never been a safety issue or, you know, a traffic issue on some of these roads. We're still, you know, I think have to remember that we're talking about High Springs, and, you know, our kids grow up on golf carts. And running and walking and being around in the area. And for the, our community is very good about those things. So I feel like implementing more rules and adding extra things that we have to, it's just something else to add. And it's a kind of arbitrary restriction, I feel like. So just wanted to add my 2 cents on the golf carts.
Well, I'm going to address a couple things in there, if the mayor will allow me. One, it's not a restriction. I think that's the wrong way to look at it. This is an allowance. Right now, it's prohibited. You can't do it. So PD's kind of had to deal with this, and it's been an issue. So we're looking at this to allow it, not prohibit it. But by doing this, we have to put rules in place. So these are the rules. We either do nothing and just allow it to be prohibited, and PD's kind of been on a standby with this because have been talking about this ordinance with them, and they can go back to enforcing it, or we can look at having an allowable use for it to where it is acceptable and allowable in town in certain areas.
Madam Mayor, I have one more question. Bruce, one of the things that one of the law enforcement officers said they see a lot of is golf carts coming in down Post Springs Road on the sidewalk. How will this impact those folks?
We can't regulate that. It's a county road.
Okay, so it won't have there'll be nothing that they need to do or worry about.
That's the county's responsibility to regulate their sidewalk and their county road. So we're only addressing our city streets.
Okay.
Did I ask for audience questions? I did, didn't I? Yes, I did. Okay, no more? All right. Commissioners?
I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2023-03 to allow golf carts and their use within the city of High Springs consistent with state statute.
Can I get a second?
Second, with the addition that we change the age to a valid driver's license would be my preference.
I will include that in the motion.
I understand saying that. If we could govern our way out of people dying in traffic accidents and whatnot by doing things, I think that would be great. I think 15 is okay in a golf cart in High Springs. That's just my opinion. I won't go any further. I'll just say that.
Is that what you said the state was?
14.
State is 14.
State is 14.
14, so 15 would be fine. Okay. All right.
But we were asking for I was asking for 16 with a valid driver's license.
Okay.
So without a valid driver's license, we're gonna take people to jail? Because that's technically the.
I think maybe we take them home.
So,
I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
Go home
I guess I would like to know that question. That's a good question. I'd like to know that, having made the motion to include 16. What would be, because really, I really don't have a problem with 14 or 15 driving around a golf cart. The issue I have is sometimes they still have the school bus mentality that everyone looks out for me, because that's what they're used to around schools. So what would the response be? Find a 15-year-old, not a 16-year-old driving the cart. What's the repercussions? Because I also don't want to be totally unfair if the state statute allows 14.
Well, technically, it could be a criminal traffic citation.
Extremely rare, and I don't get in the way of enforcement of laws. I don't have that authority. It would be rare that we would arrest. We wouldn't even arrest a juvenile, per se.
So, but they would end up having to appear in court?
That's a potential, yes.
Oh, then I'd rather go with state statute and go with 14 instead of 15 or 16.
I would venture to say I'm sure the state did extensive research on this to put a lower number in there than 16, based on the way they do things. I would venture to say that the research is there to prove that moving it from 14 to 16 is likely not a huge issue. So I would think that making it 14, when what we're talking about is, my kids use it to go over to their grandparents' house one street over, or go to the school, or sometimes go to the store. Yeah, I would say even if we go with it the way it is, it's more restrictive than what the state has.
Exactly.
Do we, but I mean, what Commissioner Grunder's talking about, that's a private neighborhood street. This is not what we're talking about. Is that correct, Bruce? This is just city streets we're talking about, right? I don't know your neighborhood, so.
Best neighborhood in town.
I mean,
It's on in First Lane. Come
I
see me.
I see them, you know, around neighborhoods all the time.
Okay.
Like Cinnamon Hills is a gated community.
Right,
So
right.
That's a different.
Doesn't include them.
What goes on in there.
Edgemore, Tillman Acres, those are all private streets, right?
I will leave it alone.
Yeah,
Okay.
but those still would be subject to traffic offenses. The only neighborhoods would be Cinnamon Hills and
Because it's
potentially
gated?
Bailey Estates because they are private roads. But
Okay.
any neighborhood like River Run, Oak Ridge, they're subject to state statute.
Okay.
Okay. Mayor, I'd like to amend my motion to make it just consistent with state statute and go with 14. For that, that would require whoever seconded it to agree with that change.
I can't agree with that. I've got a 15-year-old, empirical evidence, my own experience. I really prefer to stick with 16.
But we're not writing personal rules here.
So why y'all came up
We
with
gotta come
15?
with
What
general.
was your reason for 15?
That seemed to be the standard consensus on most of the ordinances. The research seemed to be 15 years of age. So that it was a little more restrictive than the 14. Most 15-year-olds have a learner's permit or are working on getting their learner's permit and have some sense of state law, if you will, as far as driving. So that was, when I checked with other municipalities that went with 15, that was their reason.
Okay, that's because that's one of my questions. So you can't get a permit to drive at 15 with somebody to ride with you, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm in favor for 15.
So let me clarify, you make a good point. So if you're a 15-year-old with a learner's permit on a golf cart, you still have to have an adult with you? Or no?
You should. You
Not
do with a
according to
permit.
It's just, it's 15 years of age or older is what the ordinance.
You don't need a,
So you don't need an adult with you. So you can't drive a vehicle, but you can drive a golf cart with a learner's permit.
Years or older doesn't address the learner's permit or anything like that. 15 years or older.
Well, he can't do nothing now. At the age of 12, I was driving. At the age of 12. Boy, go
Yeah, we all were back then,
go to that store and get me whatever I need. Well, Papa ain't got no license. Well, you don't need it until you get caught. But- and I had enough sense to drive a car at the age of 12. And most people that I know, especially riding around in rural areas on the farm and all the rest of that good stuff, they even sent me at the age of 10. So I don't have a problem with age 15 myself.
I think it's good too.
then,
So what
What?
is the motion?
should I just restate it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I make a motion, we approve ordinance 2023 as written.
Second.
All right. Is it been properly moved and second that ordinance 2023-03 be approved? Roll call, please. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
No.
Yes.
All right. Ordinance approved for the one. Number 7, discuss, consider, and act on the use of ARPA funds for the purchase of patrol rifles for the police department.
Oh, Bruce.
Thank you.
Befriend them. I don't get that one. Oh, I said 100%, okay.
Just do citizen comment first. That's okay.
Yes.
The agenda item before you is a previously discussed issue dealing with patrol rifle and non-lethal weapons. As we talked about previously, we have existing weapons that are Vietnam era, the long guns. Those items are owned by the federal government with certain restrictions. And we also have some non-lethal weapon, which are tasers. I provided a graph with that. We have about 20 tasers, and 80% of those tasers are beyond their life shell. So we are proposing to use ARPA funds to try to replace those items, to modernize them, and to put some, fairly workable items for our officers to be able to combat crime. The long rifles, they come up, they're fully equipped. There are 20 of those, and that's about $21,000. That's inclusive of ammo and everything ready to go, as Commissioner Ambrose indicated last commission meeting, or a couple commission meetings. And then our X7 tasers, they're going to run about $14,000 with cartridges and all the equipment attached to it. So, if you have any questions, I'll be more than glad to answer any of those.
Nope. Thank you for this detailed proposal.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, given circumstances recently in the news, it's all the more reason we need to be looking at this expenditure.
Yes.
Yes.
See, I wasn't aware that an officer, if incident happened, they have to go in. They have to face that incident face on. I don't care if it's 1 or 2. They have to face it. And doing my research, I think they started building the M16s in 1959. Those are old weapons. And the Army don't even use them any longer. They don't even use them any longer. Yeah. It's my prayer, it's my hope that we never have to use one. But if the incident happened, we need the right equipment to go in to solve the problem. It's just so important, just so important. Have the right equipment, reliable equipment. So, and they are heavy from experience.
Chief, can I ask or are we looking at getting AR-15s?
Yes, they are.
And that's about a pound or so lighter, or is it the same size clip?
I'm not a weapons guy, so.
Yeah, I think it's.
Than an M16.
Yeah.
M16 is 20 inches in barrel length. The AR-15 is 16. You can even go shorter than that if you'd like to, but they shoot the same round out of the same magazine.
Mm-hmm.
So would you have a 30 round clip? I thought
know
M16 took 20.
5 of them are short ones, short style ones for our school resource officers. So
Okay.
that's inclusive for them.
Okay.
Is that with, do you have optics already coming with them?
Everything, yep.
Yeah, that's
Everything.
actually
Everything.
That's a good price.
That is a very good price.
Very good price for 14. For how many?
20.
20 for 21,000. That's a.
I
very good
delegated
price.
that out to the folks who are experts in weapons in my department. So I'm not a big gun person, so they went out and did the research.
No, that's awesome. And with ammunition too, that's
Yeah, that's what-
unheard of.
Yes.
So they did something right.
And what's the shelf life for the tasers? You said when we talked about is it 5 to 8 years?
It is 5 years.
Okay.
5 years, and I broke down to the tasers. Most of them are 10 years, and they really shouldn't be out there at 10 years. It's
Yeah.
just surprising. And tasers really got a big grab on that market, so they've changed, and they've doubled the price that the ones that we're wearing right now, X2s, and we'll probably have to go in some type of lease with the X7s, but they're the only people out there with that provide that product. So we have no choice. But tasers are very important. Those are very commonly used.
I'm just thinking for budgeting in the next year or two, strategic planning, we need to be putting money away for that so that when it comes up time again, we've got it there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. So then the M16s go back to the federal government?
Absolutely.
Do they give us any money for sending them back?
No,
No.
they're owned by them, and then they loan them out to you, and they're audited every year. It's pretty healthy in terms of the restrictions, and then I've spoken about different administrations that come into office, and then some things are politicized, with policing, and we fall in that waste. So and then they restrict on when you can use them, how you can use them, where you can have them. It's just best to have our own ownership and determine our destination.
All right, we clear up here on the dais? Audience?
No gun experts out there?
There's nothing to argue on this.
You got that right.
That's right.
Me too. With free ammo.
Okay, then I need a motion.
I
make
may,
a motion,
go
we
ahead.
accept it.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and second that the police be allowed to get the equipment that they need from the ARPA fund. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, that was a pleasure.
I'm gonna have to excuse myself. I am late, so.
Okay, you got any comments?
I
for-
don't have
before-
anything.
All right, then let's go to city attorney, report and update.
Nothing from us.
All right, city manager.
Can you come to me last? Because there's a bunch of dates I need to give y'all. I need to look at my phone for what they are.
How about I give my update real quick?
Email them to me, Ashley, please.
Okay, I will.
So water tower outside's done being painted. The newer logo is up on the tower. If you haven't noticed it, looks pretty good. The inside's about, that microphone's getting me tonight. The inside's about done curing. They gotta sterilize it, so by the end of next week, we should start filling it back up again, and it should be back online. Well 3 has power, doing all its sampling, running, so hopefully here in the next few weeks, that'll be done and fully operational. Again, we heard from Waste Pro earlier, they've got a pile of equipment staged at the sewer plant. There is a lot of it there. Social media campaign will be hit really, really hard next week. There's a lot of stuff rolling out Monday that will be passed on to the citizens, a lot of information. So that's coming down. Phase 2 of the street paving's done. The Catherine Taylor Park project is running its course right now. Pile of contractors have come out looking at the building, going through some stuff. Bid opening on that will be April 27th, so we can get into some additional discussion with it. There's been some cleanup done out at the Canoe Outpost. There's been some underbrush cut, some areas cleaned. It's starting to look better out there. We met with the engineer on the design, on the permit. All that stuff's moving forward for the walking path and dock, and there's a lot of things going on in there. Several of y'all have asked about the windows out at the old school, the old woods rotting around them. We've went out for quotes. We found a contractor. I forget what the cost is, but it's fairly reasonable compared to what we thought it was going to be to go in and replace that wood. So that starts, I believe, the 24th of April. So there'll be some work out there. We also noticed while we were doing some building inspections, the Civic Center windows, the triangle windows over the restrooms and a couple other areas had some wood rot and were leaking as well. A different contractors coming out to fix those. That'll start the week of the 28th. So that's just a few things we've been dealing with. There are 2 items on your diocese that I gave you for review. Please reach out to me next week. One is the Waste Pro contract, see if there's anything in there that you want to add or anything you feel is missing or anything you need clarification on. And then there is the ordinance for the truck bypass that we've been discussing. We finally got the last little bit of verbiage done with DOT. It's in there. It's the underlined portion. It's just one paragraph. It's nothing crazy. And there is a map in there as well. That'll be coming to the commission at the end of the next meeting as well. So if you have any questions on that, please reach out. And that's all I got.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, is the wood that's being replaced being done in PVC instead of wood for that trim around the windows?
I don't know off the top of my head. I have to look.
Okay, because I know they went with the wood they went with because at the time, the historic funds required to be done with wood, but the architect said PVC trim would be
I-
way better.
I know they were looking at comparable materials. I wasn't in on the meeting. I've been dealing pretty heavily on the trash stuff right now with Waste
Okay.
Pro. I'll ask Thomas and I'll get with you
And-
next week.
All right, and AMI's on track?
AMI's on track. We're just waiting on the meter day.
Okay.
Delivery. That target's moved a couple times. So, in all honesty, this will roll out, and I expect in May we'll be starting our town halls and our information going out for when people should start expecting that. I know they've started putting, the poles are in the ground. They started putting up some of the radio equipment, but we haven't got a solid date on when the meters are going to be here. Meter boxes are here. A lot of equipment's here, but we're just waiting to know when we get the meters and when their actual install date's going to be.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, the Catherine Taylor Park project,
Yes.
Ashley mentioned something to me, or Thomas did when I was in a meeting with her. I didn't know anything about that. What's,
The renovation of the old city daycare that's out there.
Right.
That building.
Right.
There's a line item in the budget for $275,000, I believe it is.
Okay.
For there, so we started looking at some renovations out on that property.
when Thomas came in, I looked back at my old notes and when we were originally ranking all the ARPA stuff. And that was one of the projects that was eligible for ARPA. And I had a note in there about there being indoor mold in my notes. Have we had a CIH go in there and determine that the indoor air quality is good?
We've already gone in there and we've identified the lead paint, the asbestos.
Not lead paint.
Lead paint, asbestos, mold, all that's been identified. The contractors are aware. They all have reports on it.
So we have a CIH's report that says,
As far as I know, everything's been handled. Thomas handled all that. I don't have the information in front of me to be able to give you 100% what was in it. But as far as I know, they did air quality, they did lead paint, and they did asbestos.
that'd be, the lead and asbestos, I get that, it's old, and they're gonna know how to handle that, but I would hate to put money into it and make it beautiful and have people go in there and be getting sick if there's mold in
Thomas
there.
told me that he did that too.
I'm pretty confident it was done, but I don't have that in front of me. I know I looked at the lead paint and asbestos numbers because we were trying to get an idea of where it was at, but I did not specifically look at the air quality. So
And the asbestos is in the ceiling tile and the roof, right?
ceiling tile, floors,
Yeah.
there was 348 samples taken and 25 came back hot for asbestos, and then there was another 200 samples taken on top of that, and I think it was 32 came back for lead paint, or I might have my numbers back.
I wouldn't mind seeing that data whenever you get
I
a
can get it
chance.
from
I'd like to
Thomas.
see that. But yeah, the CIH step is important. So I don't know if you can get that from Thomas. I would appreciate
Yeah, the
just
reports are there. I just got to get
making
'cause
sure.
the contractors have been getting them.
Okay.
I'll go through my email. I may have it in there. I'll look. If I do, I'll forward it to you tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Are you ready, Ashley?
Yeah, mine is simple. So the special meeting for strategic planning, we're aiming for Tuesday, May 23rd at 5:30. So if anyone cannot attend that meeting, please let me or Ashley know. The other one, I think we've tried to call y'all about several of these. The other one, next meeting would be May 4th at 5:30 for the special meeting for CDBG.
Say that one again.
May 4th at 5:30 for a special meeting for the CDBG grant. Yes, second public hearing. And then the third one, I don't have the actual date. We'll send that out to you, but it's the second commission meeting in May to discuss the water and sewer going up 236 to the I-75 236 interchange. Okay, 25th.
Yeah.
So right now, that's the preliminary timeline to try to get that on their agenda. And we have the special city-county commission meeting 1 week from today, the joint meeting. Yeah, we probably need to send out an email with all those dates, so we'll get that out to y'all.
You have email now.
That's it?
I can think of a lot of things to talk about, you know me, but it is getting late.
All right. Commissioner Grunda?
Just do want to say that the High Springs Mabane joint varsity middle school baseball team did win the championship the other night. So took it to the rest of the county. They lost one game all year. So proud of those boys. They worked real hard.
All right.
Commissioner Grunder, could you remind me the score for Tuesday night's game?
I think that was 5-3 to my wife, who's a Seminole
The
fan.
Gators beating the Seminoles. It was a good game.
It was it happened in the 8th inning. You remember what that was?
It'd be a 3-run home run.
Oh.
Yeah, they put him ahead.
8 when that happened.
That was a good ride home for you.
Yes, it was.
My sympathies. Bruce, could we, a year and a half ago or so, the commission went over all of the funding, all of the department heads said, here's what we'd like you to consider for ARPA. Can we now add in, because the long guns and the tasers weren't on there, can we add that in now for the money that we've spent, and we've got, what, 270 grand left?
334.
Somewhere, so in the 300 range, and then maybe go through that exercise at least on some small scale so that Commissioner Grunder can be involved in at least what's left, you know? I would really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor?
I have nothing significant, although Prohibition Pizza is opening next Thursday. Maybe we'll have pizza before the Joint County Commission meeting, don't know. But I think it's great that they're finally able to do that. I'm looking forward to them joining the community.
It's been a long time. We've been waiting for them for a good
Just
while.
send us what kind of pizza you want.
Okay. Do we have a new book, little flyer, Ashley?
A new what?
The little flyer Kevin usually do.
So we decided to go to quarterly unless he wants to keep going bi-monthly. The reason why was because we felt like quarterly we'd probably have more interesting stuff instead of trying to fill parts of it with fluff.
I don't have a problem with it. I just know we usually have
Yeah.
one. So that's why I asked.
That was why.
Okay, that answers my question.
Yeah, we can maybe do like a bi-monthly, just something like maybe a little shorter, like it just like an email blast, just to let people know kind of a little bit of things going on. But we just want everything to be relevant.
That's good. All right, if we'll entertain a motion, we can go home.